Yeah, I'ma make this shit hot. Oh, I'ma light this shit up. Yeah, I'ma make this shit hot. Oh, I'ma light this shit up.
Anyway, we're gonna start off with a green-haired boy being given birth to. As he's given birth to, he doesn't cry when he comes out. He comes out with a stone-cold look on his face and closes his eyes to go to sleep. Yes, he's alive on it, but the doctors thought it was a stillbirth, and they're panicking, rushing about, and his mum's crying. Doctors are screaming back and forth to each other, trying to bring this child to life. And a doctor goes down and opens up Deku's eyes as a baby still to put a torch in him. And he just gets backhand, he gets a backhand from Deku. And this slap had a bit of power behind it. It actually knocks the doctor back a bit. And he just gets a death stare from Deku. They soon realise that this kid isn't normal, but hey, at least he's alive. When Deku grew up, he was always different. He'd always had an attraction to fighting. But at the same time, his mum always taught him that fighting was wrong and he shouldn't do it. He shouldn't hurt other people for no reason. And that is what he lived by. He didn't ever hurt a fly. But he still, for some reason, he practiced and practiced and practiced. He just knew certain stuff in his head, as if it was like an autopilot. So that means Deku was a bit built for his age. And in kindergarten, bloody hell, sorry guys, my speech impediment's really playing up. And in kindergarten, when Bakugo finally awakened his quirk and he got the whole "I am better than everyone" mindset, Deku didn't awaken his, because it was already awakened. He was born with his. And his mother always suspected this, so when Deku didn't fully awaken, she was planning to get him tested for a quirk on the weekend. But this is when Bakugo had fully got into his mindset that he was better than everyone else. And Deku was playing with Bakugo when Bakugo started to pick on another kid. This annoyed Deku, as his mum always told him, never hurt people who can't defend themselves, or never don't hurt people who can't deserve it. I mean, don't hurt people if you don't need to, only hurt those who deserve it and when you need to. So when Bakugo went to launch another punch, Deku stepped in front of it and grabbed it. He pushed Bakugo away and saying, "Enough now, Car-chan. This isn't funny," but imagine it's in a squeak, "Enough now, Car-chan. This isn't funny." When this happened, Bakugo was fuming, mate. No one's ever stood up to him like this before, especially not Deku, someone who hasn't even awakened his quirk yet. This annoyed Bakugo, and he says, "You useless Deku," and he launched an explosion in Deku's direction. Something switched in Deku, as if yet again autopilot. He had this looking at his eye, a serious look, and he easily dodged and weaved out of the way of Bakugo's explosion, and he rushed towards Bakugo, leaning to the side and swung his entire body, sending her like a hook, nailing Bakugo's face, and this actually sent him flying backwards into a wall. Inko, seeing this, who was in the park at that time, she just arrived to pick up Deku, rushes over and goes to grab Deku and scream at him, but she sees her look in Deku's eyes and it sends like a shiver down his spine. That's the face that he has the exactly same face his father did. Deku's eyes quickly returned to his sort of childish self. He always had a serious look. And as Inko's yelling at him, he explains what Bakugo did, and she looks at Bakugo disappointed, who's unconscious. She calls his mother and explains what happened, and Mitsuki, I think that's her name, Mitsuki or whatever Bakugo's mum name is, screams down the phone, but also apologises to Inko at the same time and rushes to pick Bakugo up. Inko can't stay, and she said again. 1 second, guys. Sorry guys, my stutter really bloody annoys me. And I don't even mean to do it. I know what I want to say, and I'm trying to say the words, and it just goes. Yeah, as you can tell, not being able to speak really annoys me, because I hate repeating myself, but I have to repeat myself because I don't even get the first one out. She immediately takes Deku to the hospital to get his quirk evaluated. And to their shock, they couldn't find anything. Deku even has extra joints on his body, and not just his toe. He has extra joints everywhere, as if his body was meant to be hypermobile. Seeing this gets the doctor intrigued, and he sends Deku for a series of tests. First is his strength. They start off slow, and they keep on picking up, and they actually are quite shocked with how toned Deku's body is, especially for someone who's barely even 5. And they see that Deku has at least a minimum of superhuman strength, and that's what they're prepared to write off as. But no, these are doctors, they're experts. They decide to run more tests, such as Deku's speed. He's actually quite fast. But they also see that Deku's heart rate, his breathing rate is perfect, as if he was a star athlete. And another thing they also noticed, it was as if Deku could control his heart rate. As when he was told to get faster, his heart rate would increase before his speed did, as if he was sending blood and energy around his body prepared for the speed boost. When asked about this through the speaker, Deku just says, "It's just something I know how to do." And the doctor's intrigued by this and says, "Is there anything else you know how to do?" Deku pulls out his arms and legs and starts easily manipulating his joints about until he enters what he likes to call his battle mode. His body is extremely disjointed, but it's clearly better for battle. The speed that he's able to move at now is increased, he's able to hit harder, etc. Seeing this freaks Inko out a bit, but she accepts it being his quirk. He resets his joints in place, and the checklist is going: super strength, super speed, hypermobile joints. And here's when the fun start comes in. They decide to test Deku's reaction speed by getting a tennis ball machine. They start at a low speed and launch it at Deku. As soon as the ball exits the shooter, his facial expression immediately changes. He easily dodges, sweeps, and his eyes are kept open. Normally kids his age shut their eyes when this happens, and that's why there's people with quirks on site that's able to stop it. But no, Deku was ready. He was twisting and turning his body like he was a pro martial artist. That's when they got curious. They started amping up the speed, and Deku's speed only increased with it, until the point it was as fast as a speeding bullet. Deku was easily dodging these speeds. That's when it became noticeable to them. Deku seems to have a quirk where he's ready. It's basically a quirk that any fighter would dream of having. And they decide to name it Hanma, as that was the last name of his father. That's all that Deku knew, and that was also Deku's last name. It wasn't Izuku Midori, it was Izuku Hanma. And with this, that's what his quirk called, Hanma. But they decide to call in a pro superhero who has a quirk where he can send very fast projectiles at whoever he wants, but he can all decide how much damage they do. They can either do as much damage as a small grenade, or they can literally be like a bit of cotton hitting you. And he decides to launch it. He launches what it seems to be cotton at Deku, and he just easily moves. And the doctor sends through like an earpiece saying, "I believe that he isn't gonna do what I expect him to do without a sense of danger." So he amps it up to where it'd be as if it was a stone getting chucked at Deku. As soon as this happened, Deku's body went into some sort of autopilot. That's the only way I can describe it. And he dodges and weaves and begins to rush at this pro hero. He rushes at speeds that were faster than when he was running. He's in combat mode. He dodges and weaves, and he jumps in the air with a spin kick. He's another actual little, I'm calling it air bullet now, I get sent at him just to blow him back. But with the accuracy of his kick, he kicks it down the middle, split in the air. And he rotates his body to send a roundhouse kick to this pro hero's face. Luckily enough, he was restrained by the people with quirks on site just in time. But seeing this, they realised that Deku was a normal kid. After this happened, Deku knew he was different, but he didn't get the Bakugo pride. He got the pride of, I want to be like All Might, I want to be like All Might. So he trained every single day, and I don't mean train like before. He trained like Baki did. He was leaning on what he was putting his entire weight on one hand, leaning sideways, body in the air, doing push-ups on that hand. When I mean he did Goku level training before Goku was Goku. Yes, that's what I mean. And we're gonna have quite a big time skip to the last week of middle school. Deku is built like Baki is. He has exactly the same body, similar scars, and he actually has battle experience as Deku became a vigilante. Yes, a vigilante. And you're wondering, well, this came out of nowhere. Yes, it was an arse pull, I just thought of it. But he did this as his house was broken into when he was roughly about 7. And it actually terrified his mother because he woke up to his mother screaming. She was being held at gunpoint. But luckily for her, Deku was ready for this. He rushed at the person who broke into the house and they shot a bullet at him. This was a villain who was mental. He was ready to kill a kid, but not ready for a kid who could dodge a bullet. and Deku dodged, jumped off the wall, and enraged, felt something weird on his back, as if all the rage he felt turned into power, and he swung full force. He actually ended up breaking this villain's neck with his punch. He was hospitalized, he didn't die, but he was put in extreme intensive care. After seeing this, the police asked for a report from the mother what happened, and the only way she could describe it was there was like a devil's face, a demon's face, on Deku's back on Izuku's back for a small amount of time, but it quickly faded. The doctors put this off as it was his joints moving on their own into a sort of battle way that was increasing his strength. Deku had no clue how he did it, but he reckoned that he managed to link it up with the extreme rage he felt watching someone attempt to hurt his mother. But after this, he was actually given training for like the hospital and certain heroes, as a 7-year-old kid who was able to break someone's neck with a punch either need to learn how to control their powers, need to be restrained like they're an animal, or they're going to be outcast in society and treated like a villain. And no one wants to have a villain who can kill someone in one punch. So he was actually trained by certain heroes, not All Might levels below him, like I've forgotten their names, but remember that first guy we saw in the start, he was strong but not as strong as All Might. So people like that. And he also started learning martial arts from like martial arts masters, because it started low level, but they soon realised that Deku picked up this low level instantly and even mastered techniques instantly. So Deku knows every single martial arts you can think of, and he's beginning to master them all as well. He loves being able to learn martial arts and fight. But let's get back to where I was at. Small time skip to the last day of school. Deku trains like Baki. He's insanely strong, but I'm not going to spoil it too much. And not everyone's scared of him, but they all recognise him as the strongest there. But this hurts Bakugo's pride a lot. And he's been training for the day he can get back at Deku, as he actually has a sort of PTSD. Remember, he was like 5 years old and he got his stuff rocked. And the only thing he can remember, like when he thinks like, oh, maybe I should get revenge, all he can remember is the look in Deku's eyes. It was as if Bakugo felt like he was a prey and Deku was a predator. And every single time he thinks, you know what, time to get him, he can just remember the sound of Deku's fist hitting his face. But now Bakugo's had enough. He's been training himself relentlessly. And on the very first day of the last week, he goes to Deku's and stands in front of his desk. He says, Deku. He has no clue Deku is asleep, which Deku actually gives, as he knows that Deku is extremely smart, he's strong, and he knows that his body needs rest, so he rests when he can. He isn't cocky, he just knows that he's smart enough to pass all these tests, which he is. But Bakugo thinks he's not ignoring him, and he yells, damn you Deku, just because you beat me once doesn't mean you're better than me. And he launches an explosion at Deku. This was his fatal mistake. Deku's battle instincts kicked in, and he immediately flicked up the desk. The explosion hit that, and Deku pushed it what seemed to be gently, but it sent the desk flying at Bakugo. Bakugo managed to grab onto the desk, but the force it was pushed with actually began pushing him back. And just before he was pushed into the wall, he sent it flying back to the back of the classroom with his explosion. Everyone in the class now has moved to the side, as they were waiting for this, as Bakugo always spoke about how he was going to get revenge on Deku. But everyone just thought, well, whatever, because this isn't the first time someone's picked a fight with Deku. Deku always slaps them about. But he never starts the fight, he just ends them. But the thing is, Deku doesn't stop until he's pulled off. And Deku stands up and he says, Bakugo Katsuki, I'm getting sick of you. I see your glares every single day. I'm not here to have fun with you. I'm here to learn. I'm here to get stronger. I'm here to be an actual hero, not a little villain like you who just picks on people, bullies people. If you want to have this fight, just know, I don't care if we're childhood friends. I don't care if we grew up together. If you want to start this fight, it's going to be like every single other one I have. I am not stopping till I get pulled off you. Now that means your nose gets pushed into your brain. It means your nose is getting shattered into your brain. If it means someone dies in this school today, someone is dying in the school today. Hearing this, Bakugo freezes. He didn't expect Deku to say this. He still has this sort of image that Deku would be such a nice kid to him, like he was when they were little. But with the look that Deku gave him, he could tell that that wasn't it. That isn't the little kid he used to know. Of course, it isn't the kid he used to know. That kid he used to know wouldn't be able to beat him up like this. Bakugo actually begins, his legs are shaking, and Deku just laughs and says, "So, the big old bully. The one who's most likely to be a villain." And Bakugo says, "Don't call me a villain. That's..." And Deku says, "What? It's stereotyping? I don't give a damn if it's stereotyping. You are a villain. You pick on people on the daily and then say you want to be a hero. What sort of hero picks on people, beats them up, for the fun of it, just because you think you're better than everyone else?" Hearing this, Bakugo's getting really annoyed by his reality, as he always says, "I'm going to be #1 hero," and as he says that, he says, "A #1 hero," Deku snaps at him, "a #1 hero isn't going to beat up other people for the fun of it. What is wrong with you in your head? Was you dropped in your head as a baby?" Bakugo hearing this is having his reality broken. His reality that he put himself in. "Oh, I'm better than everyone else, I can beat them up, but I'm still going to be a hero." It's getting broken, and he launches himself at Deku. He sends a mighty heavy right arm, and Deku weaves underneath it and grabs Bakugo's arm. Using Bakugo's own weight against him, dislocates Bakugo's shoulder. Bakugo lands on the ground screaming in pain as actual saliva's coming out of his mouth. He's just screaming and screaming and screaming. Deku popped his shoulder back in, but Bakugo's nearly passed out from the pain. But he feels Deku's insane bloodlust to just beat him, and he launches an explosion at Deku. He launches an explosion on his hand to send his fist flying around, and Deku lets it hit his face. Bakugo is just shocked, frozen in fear, as he just sees Deku smiling. We all know the smile he's getting. It's getting the Yujiro smile, the full teeth showing smile, with that look to kill in his eyes. This punch did not faze Deku in the slightest. And Deku just laughs and says, "I've always been holding back my strength when fighting, because my mum always taught me don't hurt someone needlessly if they don't deserve it. But you, Bakugo Katsuki, deserve what you're getting." Deku picks up his fist and swings it down into Bakugo's face. Bakugo's legs and stomach could get jolted into the air, and the ground beneath him break, his head gets pushed into the ground. Everyone seeing this screams, and they run to get a teacher. Deku is caught back on top of Bakugo, just pounding him into the ground, not stopping, unleashing some mad techniques. He's using fingers at one point, like Mantis from Kung Fu Panda, just. And Bakugo's face is you can't recognise him with all the blood on him, teeth everywhere, and Deku's body is still rotating, swinging. And he gets up. Everyone thinks it's over, but no. Deku jumps up in the air, jumps up right into the air, lands his feet on the ceiling like he's flipped, and he's now upside down. His feet are on the ceiling, and he forces himself down. And with the final blow, as the teacher walks in, a spinning knee to Bakugo's stomach. This knocks Bakugo out fully as he spits out blood everywhere. And the ambulance gets called. He gets rushed to hospital. Deku, of course, gets arrested. He doesn't even care. As the handcuffs are put on him, he immediately relocates his joints to put his hands in front of him, and then snaps the handcuffs. He sits in the police car. At first, he was going to get charged with intent to murder, until everyone that Bakugo has ever bullied came forward with statements, especially the one where Bakugo launched an explosion at a sleeping Deku. Seeing this, Bakugo could be the one done with murder, as his explosions are deadly for someone who isn't expecting them, and for a sleeping kid to get an explosion to the back of the head, that could easily kill him. And it goes from Deku being a attempted murderer to just self-defense, and he's asking what's to press charges against Bakugo. Bakugo's mum, though, was actually really pissed off at Deku. She storms into him screaming, but she immediately gulps as Deku's just radiating pure "I'm gonna kill you" energy. It's as if his hair is floating by magic. But of course he agrees to press no charges. And then she walks out. Bakugo just gets hospitalised for a little while. But as he's sitting in the interrogation room, where he's meant to be waiting for his mother to come in, All Might walks in. That's not All Might, sorry. A weird purple portal opens up in front of him. And a man stepped out wearing a mask, but has red hair. Not red hair, but has green hair just like Deku's. Steps out, and Deku, seeing this, recognises that aura. It's like his. He can immediately recognise a strong fighter, and he goes, "Dad?" That's what he said. Hearing this masked man starts laughing. So you are like me. How could you recognise me, son? Is it my hair? Is it my face? No, you can't even see my face. I get it. You can sense my ability as a fighter. Deku, for the first time in his life, he's afraid. this person in front of him, it's like Deku was a bug, and this person in front of him was a fire-breathing dragon. But Deku quickly snaps out of this, and all the times he remembers his mum crying over his dad not being there. And he goes, you bastard! After all these years you want to come here now? And he jumps up. Even though his legs are shaking, he's ready to fight. Seeing this masked man smiles. And he says, first off, my name's Yujiro Hanma. And you are my son. And if you're asking why I left, it's because I have priorities. Yes, you might be one of the top, but you're not at the top. My top was to change the society we live in today. But before you can even get done with the speech, Deku says, shut your mouth. I don't think you come here to give me a lecture or to tell me, oh, you missed me. You're here to test me out. I can sense it. I'm just going to call him Yujiro now. Yujiro smiles and says, you really are my son. Just get one thing clear. I didn't leave you by choice. Deku doesn't care. He lunges at his father and sends a roundhouse at him. Yujiro blocks it and lunges his fist forward, grabbing Deku by his face and spinning him round and chucking him into the wall. Deku thinks, damn it, if he makes that much noise, people are going to come in. And Yujiro says, don't worry about people coming in. I have multiple quirks, you see. I've sealed off the sound. And I've bossed out the security cameras. They only saw me enter. They didn't see what this is about to happen. I don't want to embarrass you. Deku says, well, you see, you might want to let them see you pummel me a bit so they don't get too suspicious. Yujiro agrees and he lets the security cameras work a bit. Deku now is getting a sense of how strong his father actually is, knows that he can't hold back. And if you read the manga, you know there's this person in Baki named Pickle, and he can manipulate his joint at will to enter this like fight mode. Deku enters this mode, and it actually surprises Yujiro as this isn't even something he's attempting to do. I'd say with this, Deku's speed and strength to multiply by 10 minimum. But Yujiro wasn't expecting this increase, and Deku lunging at full speed actually caught Yujiro by surprise, and a punch landed on Yujiro's face. Deku was actually stunned. It felt like he just punched a brick wall. It didn't go nowhere. But he knew that this done some sort of damage. And so he leans backwards, placing his feet onto his father, and with full power kicking into his chest. Yujiro actually nearly stumbled back a bit. He just leant back. He didn't even stumble, but he automatically launches himself forward. Deku then lands with his joints readjusting as he can't keep them out for too long because he wants their joints dislocated for too long. And he's laughing, saying, impressive, I did not expect this at all. I expected you to get like maybe a touch of my clothes. I didn't expect you to manage to hit my skin. And Deku laughs. Stop saying Baki, you stupid. Ouch. And Baki laughs, saying, I didn't just do that. You seem to be bleeding. Hearing this, Yujiro automatically wakes up and he feels his nose and seeing there's a dot of blood. He starts laughing like a maniac. Normally when people find out they start bleeding, they're pissed. But nah, not Yujiro. He's thinking, you really are my son. This is 10, no 100, no 1,000 times better than I thought you'd be. I'm excited for what the future holds. But at the same time, Yujiro's hair rises. He says, I can't just let you off with drawing blood from me. And Yujiro picks up his fist. Veins start bulging in his hand, and a stark lightning sort of thing covers his hand. Deku's confused and says, what? I thought your quirk would have been similar to mine. You have a lightning quirk? Yujiro says, so that's what you thought your quirk was. I'm going to enlighten you. I have two quirks. One I was born with, and one that I stole from winning a fight. I won a fight with the strongest person alive, and when he died, his quirk ended me, and it became mine, but I rarely use it. But the real purpose of your quirk is not being strong. It's being able to adapt and overcome. Basically, your body wants to be the strongest, even if that's not your desire. And to do that, your body is always adapting and it's always getting revenge, basically. Us Hanmas, we're spiteful creatures. And whatever happens, we are going to come back stronger. and such. Maybe I'll give you an example now. He sprays lightning all over Deku's body, and Deku, screaming, burns over pain on his body, and he's dropped down to his knees, just overwhelmed with pain. But even through all of this, he hasn't broke eye contact with his father. As he's down on his knee, Yujiro can just sense the ferocity coming from Deku, the urge to kill him, and he's overjoyed by this. He has a strong fight ahead of him. But Deku is now crumbled down over this unbearable pain. He's in his own mind, saying, really Izuku? This is the best you can do. All your life training. Probably for this moment. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to beat this lightning. A bit of lightning can beat you. What is this? Do you really think you can be the #1 hero with this weakness? Do you really think that you can protect your mother with this weakness? No. Do what you always do best and get stronger than it. Deku's muscles contract, and tensing his entire body, he's managing to bear the pain. As if he's telling his muscles, don't you dare. And this fetal position that he was down on his knees, he slowly rises up, impressing his father. This isn't what he expected. He expected his son to pass out, but even better this way. Deku stands up, and the lightning that's surrounding his body soon stops hurting him, and straight away empowers him. He finally understands. Deku is finally at peace with himself. Not like that, but all the moments where the urge to strain, the urge to get stronger, it stopped for a second, and he feels the lightning course through his veins. And he looks up at his father. His father recognises that look. All of Deku, the whiteness of Deku's eyes is blacked out, and his eyes are now glowing green. He launches his hands forward and sends lightning back at his father. This doesn't affect Yujiro at all, but it's finally worked. Deku finally knows what it is. His body just is spiteful. Anything that it has to endure, it's going to give back tenfold. And if that means he's constantly barraged by a quirk, he's going to be able to give that quirk back. But this doesn't feel natural to Deku. He's always thought of his hands, his own strength, and that's what he's going to stick with. But for this one moment, he's going to use what his daddy gave him. He surrounds himself in electricity as if he knew how to do this his entire life, and launches himself at full speed. All his strength into this one punch, and he launches it at Yujiro. Yujiro actually blocks this punch, as it's not like it was before. This punch has power behind it. And the portal behind him opens up, and with the biggest smile on his face, he's actually thrown back. He's chucked off the ground by the force of his son's punch, and he's sent back through the portal. The portal closes. The security guards who just managed to see this now are rushing in, and Deku's body still covered in burns, she collapsed. He wakes up in hospital with All Might and his mother next to him. One second, guys. And he's told about this and about that and about One for All, and that's who his father is. There was no sound on the video, but they're all curious, but Deku refused to answer any questions at all. And instead, he straight away leaves the hospital, still in bandages, preparing the train for UA. And that is what he does. We're going to have a time skip because I'll make these videos too long. And I'm just going to say, get ready for this. This is unbelievable. So I had to do it. But yeah. Deku trains relentlessly in the 2 months before UA. He doesn't get One for All, but he does train, and train he does. He pushes his body to the limits over and over again, but we're not going to get into this. We now go to the first day of UA. Deku's walking into school. He sees Bakugo walking ahead of him, and he's just sending daggers, like staring at him. Bakugo is shivering, and he looks at Deku, who's automatically smiling at him. Bakugo actually looks a bit scared of Deku, and he speeds off. But in Bakugo's mind, he's saying, just pretend you're scared, just pretend you're scared, you're gonna get him this year. And as Deku's walking, a girl actually trips in front of him. He catches her as if it was a second nature, it was just a reflex. And he easily catches her. He's using his index finger to hold her up by her collar. And he pulls her back, and she ended up pulling her with too much force, and she falls backwards this time. But he catches her like it is a princess. This is Uraka. Uraka straight away is blushing, and taps her clothes to make her float away, spinning towards UA, not even introducing herself. But Deku thinks, I've seen weirder. And he enters your ear. They get the whole speech about how the robots, and they take their exam. Deku passes that exam, flying colours, like the written exam. And as they're getting a speech about robots, Deku's sitting there himself meditating. But he's given off a feeling of being a predator, like the top of the chain to others. And it's making others uncomfortable. They don't know why, but they have a feeling in their chest like they're in danger. And Ida stands up in a sweat due to this presence Deku's giving off. And demands he stops it, saying you're causing inconveniences to the other students. Before Ida can even realise Deku's moved from his seat, Deku's right behind Ida with his hand on his throat, saying, I don't tell you how you do your training, I don't tell you how you should act. I'm sitting over there not bothering anyone, just meditating. And if you have a problem with it, if you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be in this school. Now, I want to put it into perspective. Deku tightens his fingers around Deku, like the idiot's actual throat part, and says, part of my quirk is being able to be super strong. So if I wanted to right now, I could rip your throat out. But unlike someone, I'm not going to make a scene because I think I'm better than everyone else because my family are heroes or because I have money. I suggest that you sit down until you're ready to actually fight me. And when that day comes, I'll welcome you with open arms and probably a kick to the face. But until then, sit yourself down, boy. Ida, with no words left, immediately sits himself down, and everyone recognises Deku at that point to be different to them. And the teachers watching this from another room are quite impressed with Deku, as one, barely any of them will manage to keep up with his movements, and the way he was managed to scare Ida without actually hurting him. Anyway, the exam begins, and the robots are going around. Deku's easily going around, hitting the joints of the robots, the weak points, destroying them quite easily, without using any of his ability he wants to keep hidden. And I'm saying right now, Deku has about 100 points. I'm saying he's done this 20 minutes, and we're 5 minutes in, and Deku has about 100 points. He's not going over the top, as he wants to leave robots for others. But at the same time, when he sees people taking on more they can handle, like trying to fight 3 robots at once, he doesn't take their kills. He runs in and he blocks punches, and then he jumps off. This is getting him hero points as well, like without even the rescue. Like every single time he saves someone from getting like an actual hit that will hurt him, 3 hero points. And then he begins running around, destroying more and more and more robots, until they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is when he starts using a bit of his enhanced strength. And he's, instead of targeting the joints, using his martial arts. Sorry guys, it's my mum. And where was I? He actually starts using it, instead of targeting joints, he starts blasting through robots' actual body parts. This shocks the teachers even more. Someone who was able to use actual martial arts to attack joints, he even had the strength stuck in behind him. That is until the 0 point robot arrives. Deku not afraid of a fight. He has our ideology, I'm never going to run away. And he starts rushing towards it while everyone else is running away. They all look at him like he's mental. And that's when he sees it. That same girl from earlier is falling over, stuck underneath rubble. Now he has no choice but to help. He speeds up and he's sprinting towards them. And I mean, he's moving like he ain't even making any sound. And he manages to get in front of her, and he grabs the rubble and picks it up like it's a piece of feather, and he chucks it towards the 0 point robot, hitting it in his face. Doesn't stop it at all, but he just thought, and then the robot lunges towards him with a massive fist. Deku takes a deep breath, and he says, in his head, oh, come on Deku, time to show him what you got. He goes into a stance, and all the teachers are actually very concerned. They're rushing out to help him. What's that kid doing? Why is he not running? And just in time, at the perfect time, Deku moves the robot's fist, using its weight against it, completely countering it. The robot loses its balance and falls towards Deku. Deku then enters a stance similar to sumo, and he launches his hand forwards, like palm hitting the robot. All of a sudden, the red light on the robot's head turns off and it collapses. Deku calls this one God reversal, but he ain't gonna say that out loud. It's embarrassing for him. It was his own technique, where no matter how heavy the force, he can still like count like power and reverse it, and then using their own. I'm not gonna over explain it. I'll explain it in a minute. All the teachers that are this are shocked. What the hell just happened? There was no visible damage on the robot except for a small handprint of Deku's. Deku of course passes with about 400 combat points and 250 hero points, breaking UA history, like UA records and all that. And then later that day, the robot is opened up because Nezu's curious, and to their absolute shock, all the inside of the robot are completely destroyed. And the only way they can think it happened, Deku used his own weight and his own strength to send a shockwave with such intensity on such a rare wavelength it completely destroyed the inside of the robot. A terrifying technique if used on a person. Last time we left off, Deku destroyed the 0-point robot with ease using his technique, God Reversal, that he made himself. And it shocked all the teachers because there was no damage on the robot except for a simple handprint. But when they opened it up, the entire inside of the robot had been absolutely demolished from the pure shockwave of Deku's hit. But now we go to a week later. 2 days before Deku finds out, the day that Deku finds out that he's getting into UA. He gets the letter and it's All Might. Young Midoriya. Congratulations on getting first place in the exam in combat points and in rescue points. You have also broke the record for USA points, even beating my record by a mile. And due to this, I'd like to have a few words with you when you get to UA. So, come to my office when you can. And P.S. It's true that I'm teaching at UA if you couldn't tell. The message closes and Deku's thrilled. His body's telling him, train, 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 train. But his mind's telling him, spend the day with your mother and then train. And he listened to his mind for once. He went down and told his mother about the news, and she isn't overweight this time. She still is looking as long as usual. I'm joking. She still looks like skinny as she did it before. And she launched at Deku and hugged him and saying, well done, well done. In this one, remember, Deku's like I'm saying Deku is 6 foot in this one. Minimum. I don't remember how I told you. I don't remember how much tall I made him. That wasn't proper English. Forget it. And Deku spins around and she lands on the floor feeling dizzy. Not like when she's swinging on him, he spins as a joke and catches her. So he spends the entire day with his mother, and it gets around midday when he finally asks her, Mum, can you tell me about Dad? This is the first time Deku had ever really asked about his father since he was a little boy. And she said to him, what brought this on? Deku was still considering whether or not he should tell her, decides he should. And he said, remember that guy when I was, in prison? His mother face plants and says, yes, Suzuki, how could I forget? I keep on calling him Midoriya. I'm just going to call him Izuku. She says, yes, Suzuki, how could I forget? And Deku says, well, that was Dad. When Inko hears this, her face turns white. She goes, what? And Deku says, yeah, I could just tell. And he also did tell me he was my father. His name was Yujiro Hanma. When she hears this name, Deku's mother faints. When he catches her, he takes her to her room and he says, damn it, I shouldn't have brought it up. Half an hour goes past and she finally wakes up. She looks at Izuku's. At first she was planning not to tell him, but when she sees his worried face, she decided to see her duty as a mother. She explains that his father was like nothing he's ever seen before. No matter who it was, heroes or villains, no one could stop him. And every single time he'd get injured or seem to that he was losing, he would come back stronger than ever. And that's why she fell in love with him. But at the same time, his love for the fight was infinitely more than his love for her. But surprisingly, when Izuku was born, that changed. That was now his number one priority in life. His attitude changed, everything. He was more with his mother. He was with his mother more. He was at home more. He was fighting less. That was until one day, a group of people broke into his house, and he fought. And of course, Deku's father absolutely fought them all off and killed them all. But at that same day, he said that he had to leave for Izuku and her safety, and he was never seen again. Hearing this, Deku was thrown off. He was expecting his father to be a total dickhead. But to hear that he was actually kind, caring, just absolutely baffled him. But anyway, after that, Deku decided to let his mother rest and train the next day, and on a Monday, he went to UA. He didn't have as much trouble finding his class this time, but it still took him a few minutes, and when he got there, he saw the exactly same scene. Ido and Bakugo were arguing, but it wasn't because Bakugo had his feet on the desk. His feet were actually on the floor. It was because he wasn't saying hello to any of his other classmates. Deku could tell Bakugo was meditating, which caught him off guard. And Bakugo wasn't exploding at Ido, he was just asking politely, "Can you please leave me alone? I'm meditating, I'm meditating." That's when Bakugo's hand turned into explosions and he said, "Can you piss off?" Ida's hearing this went to yell how unacceptable it is, and Deku walked over with a death stare in his eye and said, "I suggest you fuck off. Can't you see he's meditating? I don't know what your hero family does, but when someone's doing that, it's trying to collect their thought. He's obviously nervous on his first day." When he's hearing this, Ida looks at Deku, remembering what could have happened, and then looks at Bakugo, and it sort of clicked in his head. Damn it, what am I doing? I'm being a bully. That's what Ida thought. And he profusely apologised. He was like, "I meant to say this, I just thought he was being disrespectful. I didn't realise he was meditating." I kept them bowing and bowing. This caught Deku off guard. Ida wasn't the type of person he thought he was. He thought Ida was a snob. Then Ida looks at Deku and says, "I also apologise for my actions the previous days. I was just very anxious about my exams, as my family has put a lot of pressure on me to be a hero." Hearing this, Deku felt a bit of sympathy and he said, "It's fine, just think before you speak. And I also apologise, I shouldn't have been that quick to have wrapped my hands around your neck." Ida says, No, it's fine, I insist. You were just making me shut up so that others could concentrate." And Deku puts his hand out and says, "You know what, let's forget both of them things happened. Friends?" Ida smiling, he thought this was going to go a lot different. He thought that Deku was going to hate him. Put his hand out and says, "Yeah, friends." Ida went into his seat with a massive smile on his face. And Bakugo stood up and got into Deku's face. Everyone was nervous, but Bakugo was smiling. He's like, "Deku, I want to apologise as well. You're right, I was being a villain. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to beat the hell out of you in our next time." Deku was smiling. He has respect for Bakugo now, even after all them times getting beat to near death. But it's changed Bakugo. He's realised that he was wrong, and it just took a beating to the point of near death. But Deku would have thought this would scare Bakugo. It just made Bakugo want to be a hero more, fight Deku more. That's the true mindset of a fighter, a warrior. And Deku immediately replies, "You know what, Bakugo? I apologise as well. I took it too far that day, but don't think this next fight I'm going to go easy on you just because of that." That's when Deku's senses alerted him and he said, "I suggest everyone sits down, the teacher's waiting." As Awa shoots up saying, "Huh, you sense me. I'm impressed. Maybe this class isn't full of nobodies anyway." Anyway guys, you know what's happening right now? ASMR. I have a massive pint glass full of Coca-Cola. Oh, that's lovely guys, trust. And they all sit down. Deku could sense daggers at the back of his head, but it weren't Bakugo. It was a boy with red and white hair. Actually, I don't know. You know what, I'm going to keep a minute. And as I was explaining how they're going to go do a fitness test, Yuraka of course says the same thing, but Deku cuts in and says, "Well, if we was heroes, I don't think we'd need to go to an assembly, would we?" And Yuraka goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." As I was smirks thinking, this boy, I've just met him, but he's giving off the aura of a fighter. I like him. "Not like that, you dirty-minded bastards." Anyway, they go out. And of course, Deku going first gets asked to throw in the ball first. And of course, he chucks it in the air underarm. And then, quicker than anyone can see, he throws jab after jab after jab after jab after jab. He throws 10 jabs quicker than anyone can keep up with. And then, he making it so people can see. He spins his whole body around and overhead kicks it at full force, making an actual, what seemed to sound like a sonic boom in suit, and the ball gets sent flying. Due to this technique, the ball was just getting faster and faster on its own, due to Deku, when he's hit it, not using force, making it spin. It's spinning so fast that it's creating friction and kinetic energy in the air, making it accelerate like a jet. Deku gets infinity on this, and everyone's just impressed. Wow, how strong is he? They thought Deku did that with pure strength. They didn't see the first 10 hits. But as Aoi, who was filming in slow motion, saw it, and he had the biggest smile on his face. Finally, someone isn't just relying on their quirk. That was a real technique. He's going to be interesting to teach. Next is Bakugo. Instead of getting 759, Bakugo got 1050. And then everyone goes, and then Todoroki goes last due to him not needing to get a point. He was recommendation. And with that, he puts his hand down to the side and creates a flame. Wait. Sorry, I completely messed it up. He creates ice, but the ice is seemingly orange. This catches Deku off guard, and he's looking at it. This ice is radiating heat. That's going to be interesting to fight against. And Shoto chucks the ball, and it seems like the air around it heated up, but also froze, creating a massive explosion. As you know, if something is extremely cold, then you heat it up, boom! And the ball sent flying to 1051. Seeing this, Bakugo's biting his lip, thinking, don't attack him, don't attack him, don't attack him. Oh, screw it. He launches explosions and flies towards Todoroki, saying, you damn extra, how dare you beat my score. Before Aizawa can even intervene, Deku grabs Bakugo's ankle and swings him around, slamming on his back and says, Bakugo, no. Bakugo, seeing this, kisses his teeth and walks off. Everyone seeing this was confused. They thought Bakugo was about to kill Todoroki. And they asked Deku how does he know him. And Deku says the truth. We were childhood friends. Even though we stopped talking for a bit, I thought that we're going to be back on how we were very quickly. And they go, oh, that explains why he didn't kill you. And Deku laughs and kill me. That weird look Deku gets in his eye when he's about to fight appears again. And it makes everyone shiver. He laughs and says, he could never kill me. Anyway. We now have a little time skip to the next 2 days. It's All Might busting into their classroom saying, everybody get ready. I'm never going to do that again, guys, sorry. He goes, yes, young ones, I am here. All Might, I am your combat teacher. Everyone except for Deku and Bakugo are fanboying and fangirling. And All Might looks at Deku and says, and says under his breath, that damn brat. Not brat, he said, oh, that boy, he didn't come and see me like I asked him to. I was going to talk to him about One for All. As soon as Deku saw All Might, he remembered, damn it, I was meant to go see him. And they all leave and get ready to go in their uniform. Deku's uniform, you guys, I want you to tell me what it should be down below. Even though this video ain't going to get a lot of views, I'm hoping that you'll give me some good recommendations. Or it's just going to be Deku in a normal outfit. As I'm not putting him in the same hero gears, unfortunately. Anyway, they're walking out, and All Might goes to the back with Deku and says, young Midoriya, or young Hanma, you was meant to come see me. And Izuku goes, yeah, I forgot, sorry. All Might in his head says, no one's ever forgot to come see me. I guess my number one hero status doesn't really affect this young man. And All Might goes to Deku. I just wanted to talk to you about your encounter with that villain, and as well as something else. But Deku says, can we save it till after this? I want to show off first. All Might laughs and says, I suppose you do. Fine. Come with me straight after the exam. Deku says, of course. Now we get the same teams as canon. Uraka and Deku as heroes, Bakugo and Ida as villains. And it begins. Deku, like usual, didn't wait with Uraka. He rushed off towards Bakugo after telling Uraka the plan. And they both cut around the corner at the exactly same time. Bakugo spins around with his explosion, but Deku blocks it with a hand, getting a small burn. But surprisingly, it heals. This caught everyone off guard. We didn't know his quirk was healing. This caught Deku off guard a little bit as well, but he's assuming it's what his father told him. His rule quirk is his body adapting and getting stronger no matter what. Deku feels this explosion and he feels his hand heat up for a second, but it quickly fades. And he's dodging and weaving. Bakugo isn't just relying on explosions this time. Well, he is, but he's using actual punches as well. He's using his explosions to make his punches stronger, faster. And he's even using explosions on his kicks, which is something he didn't realise he could do until he did his training. Although it takes a lot more effort than his hands, he can create explosions from any part of his body. You're realising, yes, I'm upgrading people's quirks in this, because why not? And as such, that's what he does. He uses a powerful kick, which Deku wasn't expecting, and he barely dodges it, but it barely touches his nose. And he sits up. Baki was laughing, saying, "I made you bleed, Deku." Deku feels his nose, and it's a tiny little drop of blood, just from the heat, not even the kick. And he says, "I suppose you did. I guess now it's time to make you die." Hearing this, Bakugo gets a shiver down his back. Deku's being serious. That look in his eyes appeared, his hair's floating upwards. And Bakugo flies towards Deku with a massive explosion. Then he dodges round him and flies backwards. And pulls up his grenade with his pin ready to be pulled. All Might goes, "No, young Bakugo, don't! That could kill him!" And Bakugo yells, "I know, Deku, this isn't going to kill him. It's just going to piss him off." And of course, Bakugo pulls a pin on his grenade launchers, and it sends a massive explosion towards Deku. Deku, not at all phased, pulls his arm to the side and sends a massive clap. This breaks the explosion a bit, giving him time to think. But if Chemicald's flying towards him, all he knows he can do is block. That's what he does. He puts his hands up towards him, and that really hot feeling he felt in his body, and on his hands, it's sent around his entire body, and his eyes flash orange for a second and return to their greenish colour. And he looks at his hand, still on the explosion. The explosion isn't really affecting him anymore. He's healing quicker than he burns. But everyone saw Deku get hit at point blank range. They think he's dead. But when the explosion appears, it's just Deku's body steaming as he blocked it. This even shocked Bakugo. What? Wait, the explosion didn't affect him at all. What kind of hellish training did he do? And Deku, looking down at his hands, hiding it from Bakugo, there's explosions coming out of his hand. He's got that quirk as well now. But he isn't going to use it. Bakugo flies towards him and says, "This is the end, Deku." And Deku says, "I agree." He ducked right beneath Bakugo's punch, grabbed his shoulder blade, spun him, then got Bakugo by his neck. Using a full body rotation, even Deku's body spun. He spun around and slammed Bakugo into the ground. Bakugo broke through one floor, then another, then another, then another. And he finally stopped on the first floor when they was on the top. They stopped on the first floor, although they was on the second top floor. And he was unconscious at that point. All Might yells, "Young Bakugo unable to fight." Everyone's caught off guard by this. How strong is this mysterious Deku boy, or Izuku? Then Deku rushes. He realises that he isn't going to make it in time. And he jumps, and he looks up. With his fist ready, he crouches down, and he jumps up towards the ceiling. Everyone's going, "What? He's going to hit his head." But no, he punches through the concrete, then again, then again, then again, then again, and keeps him rising. Till he gets to Yuraka, who sent in a bunch of pebbles at Ida. But unlike Cannon, he's snuck past this. He's trained even harder. And he's right about to kick Yuraka in the stomach, until All Might says, "Villains lose." Deku's broke directly underneath the bomb. And when he got out, he grabbed the bomb, lifting it right into the air. Ida seeing this, his jaw just dropped. What is this monkey boy? Not racist. I'm not dealing with that. I said monkey and Whatif before, and my Discord was blowing up. The rest of the students do it. And then we finally get to the Todoroki one. And he places his hand on the wall. The wall gets covered in that orange ice. And when someone steps in it, they don't get frozen, their feet burns. So they immediately surrendered, and Todoroki removed the ice. But the way he did it was, he returned it to blue ice, and then melted it. This confused Deku. What is this kid's quirk? Anyway, afterwards, Deku went to the office with All Might, and he sat him down, and he was like, "Okay, young Hanma, I'd like to inform you that that villain you met that day was the #1 villain in the world, all for one." And Deku says, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "What? How?" He's like, "He told me." He was like, "I'm going to be his greatest opponent one day." Hearing this, All Might is very confused. What did All for One, seeing this kid to say that he's going to be his next biggest opponent? All Might's pride is a bit hurt. That's meant to be his job. But at the same time, it means that Izuku's guaranteed to be the one who should be the successor, One for All. And All Might explains the quirk to him. And Deku says, "Oh, no thank you." All Might is very confused. And Deku says, "I don't want to take any shortcuts in training. I want to get as strong as I can be with my own training, my own power, my own strength. And All Might was very confused, but he respected it, and he said, but young Hanma, if you want to fight all for one, you're going to need this strength. It's the quirk made to fight against him. And Deku said, well, I'm pretty sure my quirk is strong enough. When he's hearing this, All Might becomes curious. He says, what is your quirk? He says, my quirk is called Hanma. All Might's very confused and says, what? He's like, yeah, they couldn't figure out a name, so they let me name it. It was similar to my father's quirk, you see. I could get stronger quicker when I train, my body adapts, I have enhanced strength, enhanced reaction time. All Might says, so it's similar to One For All then. This quirk would insanely boost your strength and the strength of your own quirk. Hearing this piques Deku's interest. And he says, what? Deku of course accepts it. And All Might says, your body's perfect enough, you should be able to use 50% already. And Deku takes it by blood this time. All Might drops a bit of blood on Deku's drink and he chugs it. And he's like, ugh. Deku starts gagging afterwards, but due to it being by blood, we all know it will happen immediately. Deku's body gets a surge of power running through it. The One For All lines rush through it and then fade. All Might says, okay then, let's go to the training field. He tells Deku exactly how to use it, but nothing happens. And Deku instead uses his own strength. All Might's very confused, and Deku says, oh well, and starts training. Deku immediately feels the effect. Although he doesn't now have One For All's insane super strength, the speed at which he gains strength from training, the way his body adapts, the way his body strengthens, it's insanely boosted. 10 times, no, 20 times, 100 times maybe? When hearing this, All Might says, so instead of you getting insane strength, it's just enhanced your quirk strength. See, interesting. It's not what I expected, but seeing how strong we were before, that should be amazing. Anyway, due to this, you're now my successor, and I'm going to train you. Deku says, okay, I'll take your suggestions, but I'd want you to see the way I train first. All Might agrees, he's expecting probably something like 1,000 push-ups. When he sees how Deku trains, he gets a sick feeling in his stomach. How can this teenage boy train like that? If I train like that at his age, I would die. Does it not overwork his muscles? No, by the results, it's working. Deku goes on a 100 km run every day. 100,000 push-ups. Lifting up tons and tons and tons. The way he works up, hitting his entire body at strains at once. If you've seen the way baki works out, you already know how intense it is. Just imagine that, but way more. Seeing this, All Might can't really suggest anything. And he says, the only thing I can really suggest is ways to support or strengthen your quirk. Deku's interested, and he's like, okay, explain. It's like when people push their quirks to their limit, and then suddenly get a rush, or something they need to be, or sudden urge or need to be stronger. They get a quirk boost, it enhances the strength. Deku hearing this is very, very up to it. And by the way, yes, Deku's workouts get more intense every single day, just so you know. And that's what they do. First, they want to find out how strong Deku actually is. And when they find that out, no teasers. They think there's ways to push it to the extreme, and the only thing that All Might can think of is sparring with Deku. And that's what they do. Deku's always wanted to fight against All Might, someone that he's always viewed to be the strongest. ASMR. And so they begin. All Might keeps it at 20%, thinking that's all that really should be necessary. And he blitzes in front of Deku. To his surprise, when he throws a punch, Deku doesn't block, he catches the punch and knees All Might in the chin. Then he wraps around All Might's neck in a triangle choke and starts choking him. All Might's caught off guard by this, the pure strength of this boy. This is roughly about 40%. His quirk is powerful. He doesn't even think he hasn't been strengthened by One For All at all. That's when All Might says to himself, no, I can't be beaten by this boy. All Might pushes himself to 50% and swings around. This catches Deku off guard. He knew All Might was strong, but this just breaks everything he imagined. and he chucks Deku across the beach. That's where they are sparring, by the way. All the way across it, and Deku crashes into the wall. All Might panics thinking he went too far, but Deku shoots up, ready. He's now in his real fight mode. He hasn't done anything to his joints yet. He sprints at All Might, making it to him in a flash of an eye, and lands right in front of him. And he swings his fist round, hitting All Might in the face. There was a loud bang that was heard from this, but All Might throws a punch back. Deku isn't going to pussy out. He takes these punches, takes it to the stomach. This keeps him catching All Might off guard. He thought he was going to block. But to his surprise, Deku isn't affected. He just throws another punch and a kick. And he just throwing combos and combos at All Might. All Might pushes himself to 60% and slaps Deku in the back, sending him flying again, straight up into the air. Deku somehow balances in the air and sends himself flying down. Deku tightens all his muscles at once and then looses them, creating a shockwave, sending himself flying down to the ground. He got this inspiration from All Might. He's now flying down like a speeding bullet with his punch ready. He dislocates some of the arms in his, some of the joints in his arms, and relocates them, so where this punch is going to do a lot of damage. Deku's arm now looks more like pickles. All Might sees his deformed arms and thinks he's broken it, but he ain't going to hold back now. If this kid still wants to fight, so will All Might. All Might amps himself up to 70%, and he chucks his fist down. They both collide, they both get sent flying backwards, and Deku hits his head on the wall, knocking him out. All Might feels his arm. It's clearly broken. This kid, he was able to overpower 70%. Maybe one for all. I mean, all for one was right. That's not something I ever meant to say. This kid truly will be his #1 fighter. This kid is what, 15, 14, 15? Incredible. Deku wakes up not in it. Well, yeah, at the UA infirmary. Remember, this was the end of the day. And he wakes up and he's like, oh, I got beaten, didn't I? All Might says, no, it was a pure luck chance by me. I sent you flying and you hit your head. I think if you didn't hit your head, you would have had a chance of beating me. And he points at Deku's arm and says, about that. Deku's arms, all his joints are still all fucked. Yeah, I forgot I can tell. Deku's joints and arms are all fucked up still. And he says, oh, this is nothing. He easily moves his joints about, mesmerising All Might. This boy, he has perfect joint control, incredible. Deku's arm soon returns to normal, and he sees All Might's arm in the class and says, oh, did I do that? All Might, trying to hide the story, says, not entirely. After that fight, I didn't realise you was knocked out and I still rushed directly at you. And when I saw you was unconscious, I punched the wall instead. Deku could sort of tell he was lying, but isn't going to hurt All Might's pride, and says, oh, okay. We now get, I'd just say roughly about a week goes past. Deku still trains relentlessly with All Might's suggestions and pushing his quirk to the limit. So whereas Deku would train, he trains differently when he's picked up something different. Shadowboxing. Deku's discovered another part of his quirk. When he focuses hard enough, he can create an enemy in front of him, and he can make the enemy as strong as he wants. So Deku's getting incredible combat training. Meaning he pushes himself to the limit every single day, physically, mentally. And each day his opponent he's fighting getting stronger and stronger, as well with Deku. We now go to a week, and they get announced that they're going to go to a hero training course. And everyone is ecstatic, especially Kaminaru. Or should I call him Denki? I forgot his name. I'm just going to call him Kaminaru. No, Denki. Denki sounds better. And he goes, yes, we're going there. They had the best results. They have a fire course, an ice course, a water course, everything. Anything that suits your quirk. Deku hearing this is actually excited. He's going to get some real training done. So they finally arrive. And when they get in there, Kirishima, after getting explained by the Hero 13, Kirishima goes, wow, they even got such realistic looking villains. Hearing this sends Aizawa on guard, but Deku already was on guard. He sensed their presence. Aizawa sees Shigaraki, I forgot his name, the purple guy. He sees everyone there, except for like the League of Villains, of course. They're not there yet. And he yells, 13, keep the kids safe, I'll deal with this. Kurogiri, that's his name, says, I don't think so, and he teleports everyone to a different area. While Aizawa was left to fight. Deku gets to the water area, One sec, guys. I have a really sore throat. Oh. Deku gets sent to the water area with Froppy, Mineta, and they get surrounded by villains. He's saying, "Come in the water, kids. We don't bite." Hearing this, Mineta's panicking, saying, "Damn it, damn it, damn it." Deku says, "Oh, you don't bite." Saying nothing, he jumps off the boat, flying towards one of the villains and punches him hard in the face, knocking him out. He's now left in the water, and all the water villains are circling him, saying, "You shouldn't have got in here, kid." Deku says, "Why, do you think I can't swim?" Deku dives underneath the water, getting followed by all the villains, who are now in sheer shock. Deku using pure strength with swimming at insane speeds. Where the villains were circling him before, he's now circling them. And he spins around the watercourse at such speeds, he's creating a whirlpool. This pulls all the villains in, but while Deku's spinning around, he's punching them and punching them and punching them. And Mineta's throwing his balls in the water. He doesn't think this is actually making it a bit difficult for Deku. But when he gets a ball in him, he tries ripping it off. He finds that he can't. Mineta says, sorry, Hanma. Oh, I'm just going to say Izuku. Sorry, Izuku. Them balls are impossible to take off when they're put on. Deku says, impossible. Nothing's impossible. He rips off the ball, and he rips his skin off with it, and everyone goes, ugh, but Deku's skin heals over. Mineta yells, sorry, I didn't think. Deku says it's fine. And he swims to the bottom, and gets to the bottom, places his feet on the floor, and jumps upwards at insane force, creating a sort of tidal wave in the watercourse. He lands on the boat, grabbing Froppy and Mineta, and jumps off. All the water villains have been knocked out now. He now lands and can look around. Everyone's handling the villains quite decently. He's proud of his classmates. I didn't say it, but they've been getting along quite decently. But then he looks over. He sees Aizawa struggling with some of the villains. And then he sees it. A massive beastly creature with like a bird face that snuck up on Aizawa basically and punched him hard in the chest. Deku could see that Aizawa had a broken rib. He didn't know how he knew, but he knew. If you read the manga, you know where Deku got this from. It's like he could see what was wrong with Aizawa, his illness, his weakness. But he shook the thought out of his head and rushed over to the Nomi who was about to deck Aizawa in the face. Deku comes in with a flying kick, sending the Nomi flying off. This catches Shigaraki off guard. They haven't been informed about a kid like this, a kid strong enough to send a Nomi flying. But something about him reminds Shigaraki of his master. And he goes, so you're the kid Master was talking about. He thinks you're so great, and he told me I can't hurt you. But to hell with that. I'm going to tear you to shreds and show who's superior. Shigaraki rushes at Deku, preparing to decay him. But Deku moves out the way, grabbing Shigaraki's arm and snaps it. Shigaraki screams in prayer and says, You bust! How dare you touch hands on me! This isn't fair! This isn't fair! Hearing these words pissed Deku off. This isn't fair, you're a bloody kid. You come to attack people and you get attacked back. What you thought was in the stand here defenseless. You're a bloody child, a man child. You're just a little pussy, bruv. Hearing this pisses Shigaraki off and he grabs Deku's arms. Deku winces in pain as his arm turns to dust. But he slaps Shigaraki around the face like a bitch and he keeps on doing it and doing it and doing it. Till Shigaraki's face is all swollen and bloodied and he finally lets go of his arm. Shigaraki laughs and says, even with that arm you won't be able to use it. Shigaraki is just in pure shock when he sees Deku's healing factor kick in. The more Deku gets injured, the faster he heals. And he sees the decayed bit of his arm heal over. And he laughs and says, what were you saying? And he stamps on Shigaraki's face. Deku's getting ready to kill Shigaraki until the Nomi appears behind him, a lot quicker than Deku expected. Deku blocks, just to feel his arms break when he gets punched. That punch was stronger than almost 70%. What was that? Of course the broken arms heal on Deku, and he stands up. Everyone else in pure fear. Deku with a smile on his face and says, finally, a real fight, a real villain fight where they'll try to kill me and I can kill them. Deku rushes up the Nomu. You can easily see that his brain is his weak spot, but he ain't gonna attack that. He runs and jumps and kicks. The Nomi blocks it, and Deku's impressed. Shigaraki, who's barely conscious, says, time to tell you, that Nomi's strength exceeds all might. He has shock absorption and a healing factor greater than anything you can imagine. He's unbeatable. Deku says, no one here is unbeatable except for me. And the Nomi grabs onto his leg and attempts to crush it. Deku takes a deep breath, pulling his arm to the side, and says, You have shock absorption, huh? I wonder how much shock you can absorb. With an open palm, he sends it flying into the Nomi's chest. there's a literal shockwave that comes out from the back of the Nomu, and the Nomu starts shaking. He drops Deku and he starts shaking profusely as some weird black blood pours out of its mouth and its eyes. He drops to its knees, but it quickly fades and comes back. Deku jumps back saying, if that was any normal person, all their internal organs would be destroyed. I see, that's how great your healing factor is. Shigaraki, seeing this, was impressed. That was a normal person, no matter who it was, even if potentially his master. They would have died. But he yells, Nomu, kill that brat, he's too big of a risk. I don't care what master says. The Nomu, hearing that his direct orders, his body seems to be a bit bigger as his muscles grow. Deku sees that this is a combat mode and he rushes at Deku. Deku barely manages to dodge and he wraps onto the neck Nomu's arms and he spins with it. It tears the arm off. Just for the hill straight back away. Hill back on, straight back away. Wait, you know what I meant. And he spins with the Nomu's arms, slapping it around the face. As he thought, the Nomu's own skin negates its shock absorption, but it doesn't really matter, it can heal quicker than it needs to. Deku chucks the arm away. He's gonna fight with his own strength. He rushes at the Nomu, punching it in the stomach, with a force greater than its shock can absorb, just like All Might did. But it doesn't matter, the healing factor ensues. The clash that we see happen between All Might and the Nomu happens. By the way, Ida's really rushed to get All Might and he's on the way. Everyone watches in sheer awe. They've all beat their villains by now, and they're just watching Deku throw hands. Aizawa was actually still down a bit. He's taken the chance to recover. He has faith in this kid that when he needs to step in, Aizawa will. And they're throwing blow after blow after blow after blow. And yeah, the combo ensues. Deku's getting pushed back slightly, but he ain't having this. He starts pushing back more and more and more. That's when Shigaraki plays dirty. Barely even able to walk, he appears behind Deku with the biggest rock he could find and slaps Deku around the head. Deku feels his consciousness get fuzzy. I don't think so. His eyes snap open. A weird pattern in his back appears. Shigaraki mutters, demon? Deku spins round with a kick, hitting Shigaraki directly in the chest, fracturing many ribs, sending him flying backwards. Now with his demon back activated, Deku spins around, starts throwing punches. This time he's pushing the Nomi back. More. He's like, damn it, this is a fight where I think it's fair. Everyone can see it partly. Black lightning appears on Deku's fists. The quirk that his dad sort of gave to him, I guess. And now his punches are doing like 4 times more damage and actually burning the Nomu, sending shocks through its body. Again. Without anyone seeing, Deku loses an explosion in his arm, barely, sending his fist with just enough damage, hitting the Nomi directly in the stomach. He follows through with his punch, taking a deep breath. He says, Hanma style, overwhelming force. All the joints that he has around his body get sent directly into his arm. The rest of his body is numb. But this gives his punch about 100 times more strength. The Nomi gets sent flying upwards, and all the joints get sent back around Deku's body instantly. The Nomi is now flying down towards the ground, still somewhat conscious, and Deku gets ready. He puts his hand to his side, he opens up his hands, and he yells. He says in his head, time to show him what you're made of, Deku, or Izuku. He digs his hand straight into the Nomi's brain as it yelps, and with all his strength, his muscle size seems to be growing. He rips the Nomi directly in half just as All Might shows up. Deku stands there with the black blood pouring on him. It seeps into his skin. Something's changing inside him. Something's growing stronger. And he smiles, dropping to the floor unconscious. Now, Deku wakes up in the UA infirmary. He goes, ugh, I'm here too much, as he sits up. He does not notice that there's to the right, there's the entire class 1A. He's knackered. Deku does not notice this at all. His instincts are turned off. He gets up, gets ready, he takes his top off, showing all the scars that he's ever had. This freaks out some of his classmates, and he just walks out. Everyone in there sits in silence, saying, did he just? Deku finally realises who was in there, and he rushes back in. He goes, what are you guys doing in here? Chihiro goes to him, well, you did save all our lives. We just wanted to thank you and make sure he was okay. But I'm pretty sure no one else is going to ask this, but I will. How did you get them scars? Deku says, what scars? Oh, them. From training. Where else? Momo says, what type of training did you do to get them scars? And Deku just replies with a blank face. Did you really think I got as strong as I did? By luck? With no effort? No. Ask Bakugo if you don't believe me. Was I this strong, Bakugo, when we was kids? No. I used to beat the shit out of you. Deku says, haha, sure. I wasn't this strong, that's all I'm saying. It took effort and determination. You all could be this strong if you just trained hard enough. This gives all of them motivation, especially Denki and Kirishima. But anyway, they all bow their heads down and thank you, and thank Deku, and also apologise to him, saying, we should have stepped in, sorry, blah blah blah. Bakugo says what everyone else is thinking. Damn it, Deku, what was that quirk, that black lightning? And Deku says, I don't know what you're talking about. He denies it for a solid 10 minutes. And he says, ugh, fine. He starts lying, like, completely. Part of my quirk is I can burn my physical energy to create lightning, but I barely ever use it because it burns through my stamina in seconds. I use it as a last resort, which is why I passed out at the end. Everyone hearing this says, oh, that makes sense. And Denki goes, damn it, I thought I had someone with a lightning quirk. We could have trained. Deku says, I can still train a bit. And he puts his hands out and creates black lightning. He says, as long as I don't overuse it, I can use parts of it and it burns my stamina slowly. But this doesn't really enhance anything. And I can shoot it out, but that also drains my stamina insanely. Of course, Deku is chatting the most shit. He could use this infinitely if he wanted to. And Denki smiles, saying, yes! I wonder what happens if I use your electricity to charge mine. And Deku says, I'm also curious about that. But they move on. All Might busts into the room saying, I heard young Hanma is awake. Everyone seeing this goes, All Might. And he asked them all for a moment with Deku. They all agree immediately and leave. No one spies on them at all. I expected Bakugo to, but even he doesn't. And he goes, young Hanma. And Deku just says, call me Izuku or Deku. And he says, but I like young Hanma. Deku says, go on then. He says, young Hanma, I want to thank you on behalf of the entire UA for doing what you did. Even though I did not get there in time, you fought to your drops, and you saved all of your classmates' life. And from what I heard from Aizawa, you also saved his life. But I'd also want to ask you about what everyone reported. You were using a black lightning quirk. Deku says the same thing he said to everyone else, to All Might. He says, I wanted to keep it a secret though, because there's no point in letting everyone know your secret moves and special moves, because what will we have a traitor? When he hears this, All Might shoots up. He says, quite sharp of you. That's what I also wanted to talk to you about. There's been talk that there's most likely a traitor in UA who's working with the villains. Hearing this, Deku says, I was thinking the same thing, because there was no way they managed to organise that trip so quickly. There's 3 people I want to rule out. There's no way it's Denki, Kirishima or Bakugo. All Might says, why would you think that? And Deku says, I have this sort of sense. Kirishima's #1 drive in life is to protect people. Probably something to do with his past not being able to. Denki's #1 purpose in life is he wants to show everyone that he's not some useless idiot. And he wants to show people that he can be as good as the other heroes. And Bakugo, I've known Bakugo since we were kids. If he was a villain, to be fair actually, he would probably be a great one. But when I last called him a villain, he got so offended he tried to fight me. And All Might says, okay, I understand. But other than that, I also wanted to tell you, I can't really train you that well. But I'm here to offer you my guidance whenever you need it. And Deku says, yeah, the only thing you can really help me with is probably sparring. That's when All Might reveals to Deku his injury and his time limit. And Deku says, interesting, so I want you to perform your hero activities and then fight with me at the end of the day when you have the energy to. And All Might says, yes, that was what I was going to suggest. But other than that, I'd let you rest. Deku waits for All Might to leave, as All Might asks Deku to stay in this hospital for at least 2 days, but as soon as All Might leaves, he gets dressed and leaves. Although all the nurses are insisting he stays, he shows them that all his injuries are healed, as there's something wrong with Deku's body's urging him to get home. And that's what he does. As soon as he walks in the door, his mother rushes to him, but when he makes eye contact with his mum, He feels insane pain all over his body and he collapses. He's now in an empty black space. And he opens his eyes and his father's in front of him and he says, yes my boy, interesting. He's clapping. He says, I knew Shigaraki wouldn't listen to me, but I didn't expect you to kill the Nomu. You're always breaking what I expect from you, breaking past my expectations. You really are, my son. Deku's glaring at his father, saying, what do you want, Yujiro? And he's like, as you can probably tell, when you beat that Nomu, its blood sunk into its body. I expected this. You see, there's been limiters placed on your body by me, just in case you did awaken your quirk. It was meant to make you quirkless. But surprisingly, your quirk was so powerful that it, in reality, broke through my limiters. This Nomu blood was containing something that would remove the limiters I placed on you and also allow me to send you messages sometimes. And Deku says, is that why I feel this energy rushing through my body? Deku says, yes, you already broke one of the limiters, weren't that? All Might. He says All Might with such hate in his voice. Gave you his quirk. But I broke the other 3. So now your training shall increase. And the techniques that I know you've wanted to try before, that your body just wouldn't let you, you can try. Deku's eyes widen as he looks at his father. Yujiro recognizes what he's doing. And he blocks it. He says, I see you. You recognize you gained one of my traits. You can see any weakness, any illness that someone has. And I'm guessing you've seen the impurity in my chest. Deku says, yeah, what is that? Yujiro says, don't worry, it isn't a weakness. It's just something I'll put out as a weakness. One of Deku's abilities, you can always tell when someone is lying when he wants to. This is even something that even All for One can't do. So he recognises that it isn't a weakness. And One for All says, I'm just going to say Yujiro. Yujiro says to him, this is power that I've been condensing, waiting for you to stand up and go against it. When our fight happens, I'm going to release this. And the world's going to see power it's never seen before. And Deku laughs and says, you've done that as well? This catches Yujiro off guard. Deku reveals it. Deku's been concentrating power, excess power, that would normally seep out of his body into his heart. And Yujiro starts laughing. You really are, my boy. Figuring that out. This took me years to figure out. But I guess our final battle will be interesting. Till then, see you then. Deku wakes up in the sofa with his mum, who was about to dial 911. And she says, thank God you woke up. Izuku says, yes, sorry mum, I was just so tired, I couldn't sleep in hospital at all. He's lying, of course. Inko recognises that he's lying, but she chooses not to prod at it. She says, anyway, how dare you do something so dangerous? Why couldn't you wait for the heroes? And Deku just replies, if I waited for the heroes, many people would have died, mum. I'm just fulfilling my dream of being the #1 hero. Anyway, he sits down. And he explains to his mother, anyway, mum, I have so much to tell you. He was waiting for a week. He's explaining to his mother that he's All Might's successor, that he feels his quirk's gotten way stronger, and he can't wait to train more and more and more. As Deku's talking, Inko's smile just gets bigger and bigger on his face. He's just like his father, except that he doesn't let training crowd his life. He still makes time to come see his mother. He still has time with his friends. He's balancing his hero, training life and everything. And he just says to him, Izuku, I don't say this enough. You've made me so proud as a mother. Hearing this, Izuku smiles, and he lets another 2 hours go past. He looks at the clock and says, anyway mum, I gotta go train. Inko doesn't stop him, and she says, go on then. Deku sprints out of the house. His body feels lighter than ever. He's moving at speeds that barely anyone can keep up with, like eyes can keep up with. And he finally gets to his special training spot. A spot that hasn't been released to yet. It's up in the mountains. There's a spring there, there's a bunch of animals. And here Deku trains, pushing his body to the limit. He swims down to the bottom of the lake. And he trains underwater, meaning the resistance he gets is way stronger. Well, in reality, this doesn't really feel a lot to Deku. And he looks down at the hole in the spring that he's seen before, and he swims down it. He drops into a cave. Deku feels an insane weight on his body. And he also looks around. Monsters he's never seen before are there. Massive lions, massive snakes. What is this? Yes, I know I've done this in a few ways. This is going to be a magical area where Deku's going to be able to train. Because where I've made him stronger and stronger, normal training ain't helping him get stronger anymore. Before he can even react, this massive snake lunges at Deku, and Deku jumps. This jump was meant to send him flying up towards the ceiling, but he barely dodged the snake. This environment, it seems gravity is stronger. This is what Deku's been looking for. The snake rushes at him with its jaws open, and Deku catches its jaws as he gets pushed back. He's pushing his body to its limit right now. All his veins in his arms are bulging, and he rips the snake in half, and he's like, I like that move. But the venom from the snake falls down, its snake glands will burst, and it pours in Deku's skin. Deku screams, the venom's burning his skin, but it's healing at the same time. And soon enough, the poison, or the venom, whatever it is, stops working on Deku. Immunity to poison, I like it. More and more insane type of beasts rush at Deku, and Deku's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Soon enough, he can't even feel the effect of the gravity on him, but he can feel that his stamina is reaching its limit, and he runs back to the entrance that he came through, and he jumps up through it, through the lake. He looks at his arms. From the venoms there was scars, but they're shrinking, but he decides to cover them up just in case his mother sees them. He gets home, there's a letter there informing that all students will soon be staying at UA due to there being risk safeties, and if there's villains after UA students, they'll be after the family as well. Deku at first refuses this, but his mother insists, as he can always come back and see him whenever he wants. So the dorms happen a lot sooner. Deku gets to UA, and this is now on Monday. As he walks in, everyone notices that Deku's body seems a bit bigger, and they also see the bandages on his arm. Bakugo rushes over and rips them off, and they see a tiny scar now. It used to be his entire arm, it's tiny. And they go, another scar, Deku, impressive. What sort of training was it this time? Deku says, I fought against a massive giant snake, and its venom exploded all over me when I ripped it in half. Deku says this with a blank face, and everyone laughs. Anyway, as Awa crawls into his class in his beanbag and says, all of you, take out your notebooks. By the way, we're going to have a UA festival in a few days. Be ready for it. Deku hearing this is ready to show off against the other people, show his strength off, and hopefully when his dad's watching, he shows him what he should be afraid of. Every single day for the next week, Deku goes back into that area, and he gets the off chance where he's gaining these monsters' abilities. But not entirely. If one dragon could send them out, if one of them could send a beam of lightning where it will blow up an entire mountain, Deku can create that type of lightning. I'm not making him too overpowered. And as such, Deku goes deeper and deeper into this cave. And as time goes on, the gravity gets stronger and stronger. This is exactly what Deku's been begging for. An infinite training where he just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. By now, Deku would be about All Might with 200%. And he's just getting more and more happy. Until finally, he breaks into what seems to be a whole new world. And of course, the first thing he sees is a dragon flying in the sky. Deku crouches down and launches at full speed at the dragon, rugby tackling it out of the air. It's flying down. Deku actually gets bit by the dragon and he screams. And the dragon bites onto his arm, attempting to rip it off, but Deku says, don't you dare! He pulls his arm to the side and rips inside the dragon's, pierces the dragon's eyeball and rips it out. The dragon releases Deku trying to get away, but Deku wraps around his neck and begins to try choking it out. The dragon sends scales and scales and scales at Deku, until eventually it swallows him. Deku's flying through the dragon's intestines into its stomach. He lands in the stomach acid, which he quickly gains immunity to. But the heat in there is just so intense. Deku knows what he needs to do. He begins to meditate. He's absorbing the heat into his body. He's never going to get a chance like this again. It's like he's in a volcano. And he's ignoring all the dead animals around him. Deku takes a deep breath. He can feel his skin hardening. Until the point he realizes that he's at his limit. He opens his eyes and he pulls out his arms to the side. Ooh! Oh! I nearly knocked my radiator. 1 second. Sorry guys, I'm back. My sister was knocking on the door. Anyway, he pulls his arm out to the side, activating his demon back. He has a rough grasp on how to do it, but not perfect. So it wasn't a full demon, and he full power punches himself out the dragon's stomach. Anyway, he gets home to the UA dorms, and everyone's there waiting for him. He's covered in burns and scars, and they all panic and rush to help him. But he pushes them off and he says it's fine. He concentrates and his healing factor speeds up and his arms all heal over. And he says, oh, I'm going to bed. We now go to the day where the sports festival is meant to take place. But Class 1B comes to pay Class 1A a visit. Deku opens the door, and it's just Monoma saying, so you're Class 1A, I don't see anything special here. Bakugo launches an explosion flying towards him, just for Deku to grab him and pull him back, and says, nope, what did I tell you when you tried to start another fight with me? I'll handle it. Monoma says, nothing seems special here, and Deku says, you look like a blonde twat, bruv, why are you in my class? You want a problem? Start a problem and see how it ends. Deku gives him a death stare, and Monoma shivers a bit, but now that the entire Class 1B is there, he can't back out now. And he says, Class 1A, you're thinking he's so tough. How are you going to react against this? Monoma taps one of the other students who are walking past. If I've said his name wrong, I apologise. Then they had a speed quirk. He throws a punch at full speed towards Deku, just for Deku to catch it. He rips Monoma's forward and then pushes him back at equal force, popping out Monoma's shoulder. Monoma screams and Deku pops it back in. Someone with a healing quirk heals his shoulder, and he stands up saying, you damn brat, and he lunges towards Deku. Deku says, I gave you a chance. He swipes Monoma's fist away from him and grabs him by the face, lifting him up. Monoma screaming, let me go, I'll call a teacher. Deku leans backward and slams the back of Monoma's head into the ground. Before he can fall unconscious, Deku pushes a pressure point on Monoma to wake him up. And he says, I don't think so. He picks him up again, booting him in the stomach. Someone in Class 1A with the vines tries to pull him back, but he lunges as well, pulling her and chucking her across the hallway. Deku's walking towards Monoma with his arms out. All the Class 1A is telling him to stop, but Bakugo says there's no point. Once someone starts a fight with him, no one's going to stop him, and he will never stop till he gets pulled off. Monoma taps in someone else who had a rock quirk, surrounds his fist in rocks and chucks a punch towards Deku. Deku eats the punch, letting it hit him directly in the face. And Monoma goes to throw another one. Deku leans back and sends a headbutt, destroying all the rocks on Monoma's fist. He then roundhouse kicks Monoma in the face. Monoma stumbles back and he says, I'm sorry. Deku doesn't care. He rushes towards him and punch, kick, slamming Monoma into walls by his ankles, spinning him round, up and down into the ceiling, and boots him out the window. Everyone screams thinking he's going to die, but Deku runs out and catches him. And as they're landing, before they land, Deku spins and slams him. He didn't get as much damage, but at least he didn't die. All the teachers have been alerted and they're rushing towards him, especially Deku. Deku sees this and he boots Monoma across the field, giving him more time, sprinting towards him, and while in the air, enters a weird stance no one's seen before. Instead of a punch, it's more three-finger claw. And he dives towards Monoma, slicing his chest. He didn't do any physical damage, but Deku basically just touched up Monoma's lungs, pushing him in. Monoma feels like he's deaf. He has no air. He's like. This is incredibly anxiety and trauma inducing. And after 10 seconds of being able not to breathe, he finally takes a breath. He thinks it's over, but Deku's now on top of him, throwing punch after punch after punch till his fists are bloodied. And erases his quirk, but that doesn't matter. Deku doesn't rely on his fights, and he doesn't rely on his quirk in fights. He still throws punches till All Might grabs onto him. Deku pushes All Might off him with power. Eraser thought he erased his quirk. All Might going to 50%, gets Deku in a hold, pulling him off him. Deku says, it's alright, calm down now. He started it though. After gathering all the reports that Monoma started it, Deku was let off. And the UA Sports Festival begins after Monoma's healed. It starts with Midnight announcing that the first race the first festival event will be a race with Class 1A and 1B included. And the winner will win the most amount of points. And whoever gets the most amount of points at the end of the festival wins the UA Sports Festival. Everyone is pumped up. And every single person there says, I'm going to win. But except for Todoroki and Bakugo, everyone else and Kirishima included, everyone else had a slight thought in the back of their mind. Deku's probably going to win. But Midnight says begin, and Deku starts running. He's not going to go over the top against everyone straight away, but he's making sure he's in the lead. Right, and the speed he's running, he's thinking people think he has a speed quirk, and when they just see that his quirk is physical enhancements, they're thinking, oh, makes a bit of sense. As it just said Hanma as his quirk, and in brackets physical enhancement. But closely behind him was Todoroki, and Bakugo, who's now using its explosion, was about to overtake him. But Deku jumped up onto Bakugo's back and bounced off him. As he's flying through the air, this jump was powerful. This is about a 40% all for a one for all jump. So he's flying in the air and everyone's impressed. And Deku sees the robots. Using his muscles as a propulsion, he's tightening and loosening them, making a small shockwave. He's done this before. Flying down towards the robots, catching everyone off guard. Why not just skip the robots? Deku comes in with a flying punch going straight through one of the robot's chests. These were all the 0-pointers that Deku easily destroyed. Now he's going to show what he can really do if he don't hold back. Everyone is insanely impressed that Deku just breezing through every single robot. These were meant to be ones. This is just shows. Oh, sorry. This was just meant to show every single person's growth. But it just shows that Deku doesn't need any growth. He was always this strong. Deku had about now destroyed 5 robots, leaving their corpse to block other people's way, and he decides it's enough playing around. 3 robots block his way, and he enters a stance, punching at a speed that no one could really keep up with, sending a massive shockwave of wind, destroying 3 robots, and he carries on. This gives him about a 30-second gap between him, Bakugo, and Todoroki. And he gets to the line. Actually, no. He gets to the massive area where you need to either balance across or using your quirk to zoom across. He gets there and everyone says, how Zuku Hanma get across these massive gaps? Deku stops for a second, looking behind him, and he yells, hurry up, Bakugo and Todoroki, I'm getting bored. He waits 10 seconds till he can see them, and the entire audience is clapping their hands, screaming. Zuku Hanma has thrown a declaration of war against his 2 classmates. Let's see how this one will end. Deku perfectly, with zero problem at all, sprints across this rope, balancing perfectly, and everyone said, wow, what amazing balance. And Deku, hearing this, realises he needs to show off to get an apprenticeship with whoever he wants. He bounces off this rope, easily jumping across insane distances. He's halfway across, and that's when Bakugo and Todoroki finally get onto the rope. Bakugo flying across and Todoroki attempts to freeze it. So Deku jumps off the rope, jumping across the rest of it. Everyone's going crazy. Bakugo and Todoroki, Deku stopped again till Bakugo and Todoroki just got behind him and he starts running. They start screaming. Well, Todoroki doesn't scream. He says, Zuku Midoriya, you're going to regret this. I mean, Zuku Hanma, and Bakugo just goes, Deku, you bloody bastard, taking pity on me. I put you on silent. There we go. And Deku says, really now, I'm gonna regret this. Deku stamps on the ground beneath him shatters, and a shockwave appears behind him as it blows Bakugo and Todoroki backwards. And Deku, in mere seconds, goes across the minefield, blowing up 20% of the bombs, but being too quick for them to catch him, and he appears at the end goal. Everyone around him that was watching this even goes dead silent. What speed? And they all assume that this means Deku's main physical enhancement was his speed. They didn't even think about his strength. But then they all remember him taking on the 0-point robots. The same thought appears in everyone's mind. He's the next All Might. Bakugo and Todoroki finished in tied. So they both get the same amount of points. And then the rest of the placements are the same. Deku, of course, wins with the 10 million point mark. And then when the second event is announced, everyone's plan was blah blah blah, stay away from Deku, but Bakugo, for once, he knows, I'm not going to win if I go against Deku in this. Todoroki does the same. And then Uraka comes over. The team for this one is Bakugo, Todoroki, Deku, and Uraka. They put Deku on the top, as instead of Bakugo, no matter how much Bakugo fought for it, they realised that Yuraka could make them weightless. Bakugo could make them, due to their weightlessness, Bakugo could easily make them fly up in the air. And then if Todoroki makes them slide around, they'll move at insane speeds. And then no one's going to be able to get the headband of Deku. This is the best team possible. Even if you put I forgot his name, 1 second. Tokoyami on the team, it wouldn't get any better. So just imagine what the other teams will be. Actually, I'm gonna make it as I go. So it begins. Todoroki, we can see cold breeze coming out of Todoroki's hand as he's preparing to get away. Deku's just meditating. Yuraka makes them all weightless, and Bakugo using explosions. They're speeding about. No one can even keep up with them. They just look like little blurs. And Deku opens his eyes. Finally, someone's attempting it. The team of Kirishima, Kaminari, Jiro, and Zero attempt to attack them. With Kaminari being on top, he sends electricity at them. Deku puts his finger outwards, absorbing the electricity through this finger and shooting it out the other, Avatar style. They just catch him off guard, and Deku says, so this is what he meant by absorbing electricity. I can do it as well. Deku can feel his black lightning powered up, but he isn't going to make a point out of this. Kaminari jumps in the air, and Kirishima leaves the 4 hold, and jumps up with him, launching him up even higher. That gives them about 5 seconds before Kaminari lands and they need to catch him. Kirishima hardens and flies towards Deku. Deku throws a punch countering it. He actually cracks Kirishima's hardening and chucks him to the ground. Kirishima, not realising he doesn't have enough time to attack again, sprints and catches Kaminari just in time so they don't lose by hitting the ground. They think that was enough, but Jiro sends her headphone plugs into the ground, causing it to crack. But Todoroki just freezes all the cracks and ices all up. That's when the team, Momo, Mineta, Ida, and Soji. Soji appear. And Mineta throws his balls to cause him to stick down, but every single one that hits Deku just rips it off and he heals. This still freaks Mineta out. How can he deal with it? His layer of skin getting ripped off without even showing any reaction. This does annoy Deku though, so he gets out of his meditation form and stands. Yuraka makes him somewhat, not fully weightless, and he gets in a running position and dives. Mineta was the one on top with Shoji hiding him. And he dives towards him and he boots Shoji, which actually, he can feel his wings or his arms a lot more sturdy than he thought. But it still causes him pain and he winces, and that small wince, Deku manages to fit 2 fingers through and force his hand through, nailing Mineta in the stomach, causing him to pass out. But he's not out yet. He then bounces off Soji's wings and lands back on his group. The entire audience was crazy. What amazing technique! What amazing skill and accuracy! And then they're put out of commission for a little while. This continues happening, and they begin using the other fault. Todoroki freezes the ground beneath him while Bakugo uses explosions. Their speed increases by 5-fold, and no one can even see them anymore. They can just see the ice troll appearing everywhere, till eventually the entire ground is ice. That's when Ida says, it's my time to shine. Mineta's woke up and he's come out of the seal. And he goes, whatever it is, I'm not just going to call it Nitro, but a Cicero burst. And he speeds towards Deku. Deku, easily being able to keep up with this reaction time, is impressed. And he blocks Ida's arm and chucks him in the air and slams him into the ground. His team then His team then loses their balance and Mineta falls, not before Deku rips off his headband. Everyone seeing this is thrown off guard. His reaction speed is insane. And that's when it happens. In a blitz, Deku pulls his hand in the air and chucks him behind him at full force, causing a shockwave. Using Todoroki and Bakugo to turn, they use his enhanced speed to blitz around everyone, stealing every single person's headband in a matter of seconds. And All Might Midnight stutters and says, but Izuku Hanma's team wins! Stayed on every single headband. This is unprecedented. Never in UA history has this happened. And they play it in slow-mo. The teams who have every single person who got their headband stolen, like the last few people, were the one who progressed in the next round. And of course, we now go to the fights. The first one is Shino versus Deku. And Deku, without even warning, he even gets warning from Ojiro, but he ignores it. And he goes, by the way, Shino, I know what your quirk is, but it's no fun if I hide away from it. Go on and ask me a question. Shino says, so you know what my quirk is? Deku says yes. Deku instantly gets put in mind control. Shino says, if you really knew what it was, then why would you let me use it? Class 1A is way too cocky. And he rushes at Deku. Just because how cocky he is, it's pissed him off, and he throws a punch. Deku's natural reflexes kick in, and he dodges and boots Shino into in the stomach. Shino's like, what? Impossible. But he's like, turn around. Deku turns around, march out of the arena. Deku starts marching out. He's like, so he just has a natural defense, so I just don't need to attack him and I win. Deku gets towards the end lane, and he can finally break through the mind control. He screams out in his mind, stop! He's in an empty room, and he's looking around. That's when he sees it. Shadowy figures all come towards him, and they say, so you're the next successor, but you're All For One's son. Well, I guess you do try to be a hero, and you are definitely one of the strong successors we've had. And one of them, who had this weird tentacle ability, places his hand out onto Deku's face. Deku feels the energy course through him, and he breaks out of the mind control. Uncontrollably, Black Whip shoots out of his hand towards Shino. This catches everyone off guard, and Deku quickly sucks it back in. He hears one of the people he just saw say, "We already have perfect control over your emotions. Incredible." Everyone seeing this, Deku just laughs it off, saying, "That ain't your business." And everyone and Shino immediately rushes towards Deku, giving him a whole speech about, your quirk is so amazing, this and that. And this pisses him off, and Deku backhands him and grabs him by his throat and slams him. And he says to Shino, I wasn't always this strong. How about you use your mind control on me one more time? Of course he does it, and Deku forces his memory into Shino. Shino can just see that Deku's relentless training, and Deku yet again breaks out of the mind control. Shino loses all his grudge against Deku and says, I see. You trained for your power, I apologise. And Deku picks him up and chucks him across the arena out of bounds. The fight ends. The rest of the fights go normal, but everyone's questioning Deku about his quirk, and this finally pisses Deku off to the point he says, mind your own fucking business. If I don't want to tell you about my quirk, you don't get to know. Class 1A immediately realises that they were being a bit annoying. Deku immediately says Deku immediately said when they first asked him, it ain't your business, and they kept on asking. They try to apologise to Deku, but he just says, piss off already, I said no how many times. Deku actually is annoyed, as if he wants to hide his own strength, he can hide it. Martial artists shouldn't be forced to show off their abilities, and his classmates were just trying to force him to show off his own. One sec guys, ASMR. Oh, that's banging. It's red Fanta this time, by the way, guys, if you're wondering. While Deku's walking in the corridor, getting ready for his next fight against Todoroki, Endeavor stops him, and he says, so you're the Roman next All Might. Well, my Choto is going to be the one to destroy your Might, so he's going to destroy you as well. So stay out of his way. And I suggest you just lose first time. Like, you lose on purpose. Deku switches against him, and he says, so because you don't have faith in your son to beat me, you're asking me to lose the fight on purpose. That's not what you'd expect from the number 2 hero. Well, I guess you're number 2 for a reason then. Endeavor's flame explodes and says, you brat. He immediately freezes when he sees Deku stare. It's like there's a dragon staring directly at him. And I just remembered about Deku's training arc. Oops. But he quickly snaps out of this. He's the number 2 hero for a reason. And Deku's storming towards him saying, "Shoto Todoroki, yes, he's your son, but he's not you. If he wants to be the next #1 hero, he has to go through me first. But he's not going to follow your design, your rules, and I can see why you use it part of his quirk. But I think I understand why his ice is orange. No matter how much he tries, he cannot escape your quirk. Its rage infuses it that much. It's embedded in part of his ice." Endeavor throws a punch at Deku, trying to knock him out. No matter how much Endeavor doesn't want to admit it, he doesn't have faith 100% guarantee that Shoto can beat Deku. Deku eats this punch, and he starts filming it. Endeavor immediately tries to burn his phone, and Deku moves out of the way and punches Endeavor in the face, then in his stomach, then grabs his face and knees him. And he just gets on top of Endeavor, following his rule. He set his camera up to film. Deku's on top of Endeavor, just punching him, bloodying him up. Endeavor sends a massive flame burst, which alerts the audience attention, and he moves out the way. Deku eating the flame. Due to his ability against the dragon, he has immunity to this, and he still punches him while engulfed in the flame. All the heroes show up to see Deku inside Endeavor's flame. They all scream, "No! Izuku Hanma!" thinking that Deku's dead, but then they see that he's still punching Endeavor through the flame. They're all amazed by Deku's will, thinking he's enduring the pain. And they see the camera filming it, so they say that's clear evidence what's happened. All Might really has faith that Deku is innocent in here, and he jumps up. Endeavor with his broken nose, his busted teeth. His flames turn blue, and he shoots them at Deku. Deku feels the burn this time, but it's just a bit hotter than the dragon's flame, and his body quickly adapts. That's when he feels it. The flames rush through his skin. Looks like he's got a flame quirk. He wondered why he didn't get this with the dragon. And he says, "Oh, I see." He remembers. Quirks are DNA. It has to be someone else's quirk to affect mine. And Deku breaks the flame, now using his own to control it. And he rushes through, covering his hand in the flame. He punches Endeavor hard, sending him flying through the arena, unconscious on the ground. After reviewing the tape, they all apologise to Deku. And he says, it's fine. And then the fight finally begins. I'm going to make this Whatif a bit longer, guys. And as such, he goes up to the arena. Shoto says, "After working with you in the second event, I can recognise your strength and you have my respect, but I have to beat you." That's when the clip of Deku beating up Endeavor is played on the big screen. Seeing this, Todoroki has the biggest smile on his face ever. And he says, "Actually, Deku, no, Izuku. After this, let's be friends." Deku agrees. Now this is his about 5th close friend that he's made, as Todoroki and Bakugo were the only ones who weren't questioning him about his quirk. And the fight begins. Todoroki sends his flames towards Deku. Deku not running to... Well, due to everyone already knowing that Deku can eat flames. And actually... One second, guys, I'm getting a call. I'm back. Sorry, guys, I didn't explain. After seeing that his dad got beaten by Deku, he feels it's completely fair to use his flames now. Not out of acceptance yet, out of pure retaliation. And Deku screams, "Your flames are not as strong as they should be. Your flames are meant to be stronger than your father's, yet they're way colder than his." Hearing this, Todoroki says, "Well, what do you expect?" Deku screams at him, "I said the same thing to you, I'll say the same thing to you that I said to your father. You are not your father! That quirk is yours. Can your father use ice? No, he can't. Are your flames meant to be hotter than your dad? I hope so. Are you someone who would attack a student just out of pure rage, out of jealousy? No, you're not. You're Shoto Todoroki. You are going to be one of the next greatest heroes. If you want to be, it's up to you. And most importantly, you are better than your old man." Hearing this, Todoroki's flames explode into a blue flame. He trucks at Deku. Deku dodges and it catches his arm. His arm is burnt up. Them flames are 10 times, no, 20 times. How hot are they? They are... Oh, Deku doesn't really... They actually burnt him. They're way hotter than Endeavor's. And he yells, "About time." Of course, his burns heal. And he rushes at Todoroki. Todoroki creates massive ice spikes. And he says, I heard you're good at dodging, let's see how you dodge these. He keeps hurling endless ice spikes at Deku. And Deku, if you've read the manga Baki vs Pickle, how he can dodge nearly anything, he's easily dodging it. Everyone is amazed at the grace that Deku's dodging, even Todoroki. And it goes from standing on the spot dodging to Deku's rushing towards Todoroki dodging. And he finally lands in front of him and boots Todoroki in the stomach. He used his ice to block it, but Deku's force was greater than the ice's protection. And he hits Todoroki's chest, sending him flying backwards. Todoroki activates his flame and ice at the same time, chucking him. Deku eats the flames. His entire body's burned. Everyone in this is in sheer shock, disgust, until Deku heals, and the flames start doing less and less damage until they do no damage at all. This catches Todoroki off guard, and he yells at Deku, yells at him, "The secret about my quirk isn't insane strength. It's my adaptability. No matter who I face, I get stronger." And he's diving down towards Todoroki, and he yells, "Let's end this in one punch." Todoroki, using his blue flames, his orange ice, charges up a powerful punch, flying towards Deku. Deku uses blue flames, black lightning into one punch, and they explode. Cement and Midnight tried to block it, but it was no use. They easily broke through the cement, and the explosion that ensues, they just had to protect the audience at this rate. They fly backwards. Todoroki lays there with a broken arm, unconscious, covered in burns. Deku flies back, landing it with a broken arm, burns, and frostbite. But this quickly heals, and he sprints over to Todoroki. He can barely feel a pulse. He thinks, damn it, what can I do? He remembers how he heals, and he places his hand on Todoroki. No, nothing. What makes me heal? My DNA. He bites his finger till where blood comes out. He can hold it. He chooses to heal, remember. It happens naturally, but he can also choose it. So before it heals, he places his blood onto Todoroki's injuries, and they begin to heal. Not quick enough. He drops a bit of blood on Todoroki's mouth. Todoroki's eyes shoot open as flame explodes from him, and all his injuries begin to heal. As Deku's blood loses its system, the power-up Todoroki got also disappeared. Deku, seeing this, is intrigued. My blood makes people stronger, but it's not permanently, and it also heals. Good to know. Deku's announced the winner, and the next fight, Bakugo vs Uraraka, is announced. That goes the same, and finally, the final battle, Bakugo vs Midoriya. Oh no, Bakugo vs Izuku. Katsuki Bakugo vs Izuku Katsuki Bakugo vs Izuku Hanma. To see that, you're gonna have to tune in next time, guys. Peace out. Bye. We now go to Bakugo vs Deku. The match says begin. They just stand there talking to each other across the ring. Bakugo says, "Deku, this is my chance to show the world how much stronger I have become. To show you that I'm not like a villain. And to finally show the world..." One second, guys, I need to correct my neck. To finally show the world that I will be the #1 hero. Deku says, "Good for you, Bakugo. It's time for me to show that man that he needs to be afraid." This confuses Bakugo, but he ain't gonna ask questions. They say begin. Deku and Bakugo rush at each other, Bakugo using his explosions. He throws a punch, which seemed to be really obvious, and Deku dodges it, just to get a knee in the face. As he bounces back, he says, that was martial arts." Bakugo is smiling with a big smile on his face, says, "Yes, Deku, I decided to take a note out of your book and I started studying martial arts. Although I'm not as good as you are, I might not ever be. It's still enough to put up a fight." Deku's hair, for the first time at all in this tournament, rises up, just like his father, Yujiro, does in the manga. And he yells, "Bakugo Katsuki," or "Katsuki Bakugo. This fight, I'll be honest, I was not going to go serious. But now that you're a martial artist, I'll fight you with honour, using my full strength." The veins on Deku's arm bulge up, his chest bulge. His muscles seem to get bigger. And he puts his hands to his side. His half demon back forms. That's when I say where Deku has full control of his demon back, half of it forms. and he lunges at Bakugo at full speed. This catches Bakugo off guard, and he gets choke slammed. But this ain't enough. He knows his explosions don't hurt Deku, but they do have a force to push him away. And as such, he pushes him back flying. Using his entire back to cause an explosion, he sends himself like a speeding bullet at Deku. Using that speed and doubling it with another explosion to throw a powerful punch that Deku blocks, but he can feel a fracture in his arm. He bounces back as it heals. And he goes, That was judo. I'm not talking the truth, I'm taking guess. That was judo, using your whole body as an overweight. And I don't know what the one is with the fight with swords. And you turned your arm into a sword. Impressive. As he says this, he jumps in the air and Bakugo goes, what's he going to do there? All of a sudden, as if he got pushed, Deku flicks his foot, kicking Bakugo dead on in the nose. For such what seemed to be a flick of a kick, it had a lot of power behind it. Like, the arena behind Bakugo cracked. And he just saw like 7 Dekus as his vision started spinning. No, he said. And he launched an explosion at the back of his head, shaking his brain about, but in a good way. And he headbutts Deku. This caught Deku off guard. Blood squirts out of his nose, and he actually falls back holding his nose, saying, "Oh, you bastard." Deku, after this happens, smiles and says, "You have grown, Bakugo. Looks like I can use my actual power." He pulls his hands up to the side, and his body starts to radiate electricity. But he quickly subsides. That's when Bakugo sees it. Though his body isn't radiating electricity, if you look deep and very closely, you can see that electricity is coursing through his veins. And this is basically his Hanma blood getting electrified, getting stronger, moving quicker. Deku realised that there's no point of using the quirks he learns to use. He just needs to learn to strengthen his own, and he'll win no matter what. That is the strength of Hanma. No matter what the challenge they face, as long as they push their power to its limits, they can never lose. Unless it's against another Hanma. Deku, without a single sound, as if he was weightless, appeared behind Bakugo, and with his knuckle pointed out, not knuckle, he had his fist, but he dented in his finger a bit to make it more jagged, and he jabbed Bakugo's spine. Bakugo felt it pop, and his legs went numb. He falls down to the ground, and he goes, "Deku, what did you do? I can't feel below my waist." Deku says, "I just popped out your spine, what are you gonna do?" Bakugo said, I can't feel below my waist doesn't mean I can't feel above my waist." And he grabs his back and does an explosion through it. The shockwave is enough to relocate his spine, although he was left with a burn. Deku laughs and says, "Yes, Bakugo, that's what I've been wanting to see. Dedication, hard work. As you can see, if you pull that in, you become unstoppable." Bakugo smirks and he sends a kick flying towards Deku that Deku blocks. And he says, "I understand it now, Deku. All the hard work you spoke about before, I didn't understand it before. But after doing it myself, I can see the results myself. I understand how strong you are and how you became so strong. And the hell is training you must have gone through to get it. But now that I know that, don't think that I'm not going to catch up anytime soon. I mean, don't think you're going to be ahead for long." Hearing this, Deku laughs and he snaps with a punch. Bakugo wasn't expecting the insane power boost that came with it, and he gets sent flying back, barely keeping himself in the arena, and his arms were shaking. He could feel the bone in his right arm was shattered, and it drops to his side. "Damn it, I thought I'd be able to keep this going for longer." Deku lunges forward, and Bakugo throws a left, and Deku thought he has nothing else to swing with until he gets hit by Bakugo's right. He thinks, how, his arm's shattered. And then he realises Bakugo, even with his shattered arm, he fought through the pain, using explosion to send his fist round. He realises that he keeps this going, Bakugo's going to get permanent damage. Deku says, "As I said, I'll fight with my full strength." His joints start moving about his body. He enters his fighting mode, like we see Pickle do in the manga. And you can just hear crack, crack, pop, pop. Deku's went from being like roughly 6 foot to 7 foot, maybe even 8 foot. His muscle mass seems to be tripled, and he towers above Bakugo. And he says, in one punch I'll end it." Hearing this, Bakugo agrees. He gets his left hand, and Deku sees it starts glowing orange. Bakugo's compacting explosions in his hand. And he yells, "Deku, it's time to end this now!" He chucks the punch towards Bakugo, and Deku realises in his head, why am I just relying on power? I promised him as a martial artist that I will fight him as one. And as such he does. Deku, using his god reversal, swerves Bakugo's hand, making the explosion hit the ground, and it's all going to shockwave to go back at him. And now, using the force that he gained from reflecting, he lunges forward, not swinging his arm, just leaning, and he hits Bakugo directly on his chest, and he gets sent flying backwards. Bakugo was announced to be out, and Deku is the final winner, but as everyone checks on Bakugo, they say he doesn't have a pulse. Deku isn't too alarmed, and he starts beginning to count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as he hits 10, a pulse comes back. But Bakugo's still unconscious. Deku said it was part of their technique. Has sent a shockwave to his heart, and his heart just needed time to recalibrate itself. After hearing this, everyone took a deep breath. They thought Bakugo just died, but thankfully he didn't. That's when the UA alarms go off, and they announced of an intruder attacking a hero from the Ida family. I don't remember his name, not gonna lie. Not Ida, from the Tenya family. Hearing this, Deku, activating his instincts, searches, and finally he finds him. He's searching, he's fighting Ida's older brother, and there's a lot of blood. Deku disappears in a flash, alerting them of their location, and he appears there just in time to break one of Stain's swords before it impels Ida's older brother's back. This stopped the fatal injury of making Ida's older brother not being able to walk. After breaking this, Deku looks at Stain with all his bloodlust, and seeing this, Stain actually shivers a bit and goes, "What type of hero student are you? You have the look of a villain. But I can sense your will. You also have the will of a hero. Interesting. Maybe you really will be the next All Might." He swings his blade at Deku, and Deku ducks beneath it. And using a new martial art technique he's wanted to try, he catches Stain's arm, and he jabs one point of it. It entire goes numb, and he drops his blade. He then enters a weird stance, and using his imagination, he portrays a picture of what was something never seen before. It had a long tail, it had a body, but before his head could be visualized, Stain ran away. And Ida shows up to see his brother laying there. He breaks down, but Deku slaps him in the face and says, "Wake up, we need to get him to a hospital, you can cry afterwards." And they both pick him up and they sprint to a hospital, and Deku in the end up had to take him off Ida, as Ida couldn't stop crying and he ran at full speed. After getting the news that his older brother would be fine, and even the news that if Deku probably didn't step in, Ida's older brother wouldn't have been able to walk, he immediately starts apologising to Deku, saying, I'm sorry for what I said, and he starts thanking him, as Ida's older brother told him, "Actually guys, ASMR, how Deku stopped the blow just before his spine." We now go to the apprenticeship, and Deku didn't do an apprenticeship. He went into contact with All Might and some of the other hero authorities, and said he wanted to become a hero. And the reason when they said, "Why should we make you a hero?" he just replied saying, "If you don't make me a hero, I'm going to become a vigilante." And said it with a blank face. And I said, "I'm pretty sure after you watch that tournament, I'm stronger than a lot of heroes. So if they try to stop me, there's going to be a lot of heroes getting hurt. So you might as well just make me a hero." Hearing this, no one can deny Deku's logic, and with Nezu's support, he gets announced as a hero, officially. And he gives his hero name as Baki. Bakihanma. Yes, I had to do it, guys. I'm sorry. Teddy! He wants to hear my Mr. Bean impression. Teddy, where are you? Don't know how I wanted to do it. It just popped in my head. But yes, guys, Deku gets announced as a hero, and that's what he's doing in the apprenticeship week. He's going around stopping villains and raising his rank. He went from the bottom of the list to in the top 100 in 4 days. That's how many villains he's took out. And their crime rate just because of him went from 10% to 8%. Shigaraki's pissed by this, and as such, they plan an attack. Deku is patrolling one day until he looks at his phone and he gets a notification from Ida showing his location. And he rushes over there as he has a gut feeling something's going wrong. And as soon as he gets in the radius, he can sense Stain and Ida, and Ida's fear. And of course, he can smell a lot of blood. He's on the roof and he sees that Stain's about to cut Ida's head off, and he dives down, smacking Stain in the back of the head, like punching him. Stain for the first time has felt a vibration all over his body like it was about to drop, and he jumps back and he says, I haven't been hit like that in years. Who did? Ah, it's you. I'm sorry guys, I have a really sore throat. Red Fanta. He says, it's you, the boy from before. Someone who has a possibility to be a true hero. He stands in front of Ida and he yells, you're not getting past me, Stain. He tells Ida to run. And Ida says, no, you can't fight against him, we'll be killed. And Deku wanted to sound cool, says, it doesn't matter, unless you haven't seen the news lately, I'm an official hero now, you have to listen. Run, it doesn't matter if I get killed, it's all part of the job. At least someone gets protected. And this Stain smiles and he says, you really are a true hero. Lunging at Deku using a technique Deku's never seen before. He's bouncing off walls while his body's spinning with his swords in his hand. He slices at Deku, and Deku thought he dodged, but it was almost like Stain's blade was longer than it really was, and he cut Deku. Stain then licks his blood. All of a sudden, Stain feels power roar through his body, but at the same time, an insane pain in his chest. He drops backwards, he's holding his chest. What is this? Blood pours out of Stain's mouth, his ears, his nose. He's like, this blood is rejecting me. He attempts to control Deku, but he just gets paralysed himself. And Deku realising this was he didn't want Stain to have his blood. And mixed with the ability of one for all not being able to pass on without permission, if Stain tried taking Deku's blood and drinking it and gaining power, it would get the opposite effect. Stain immediately starts losing muscle mass as he shrivels up and becomes skinny. And Deku apologising, saying he's too much of a risk to keep alive. And Stain smiles, saying, at least I'm going to die by the hands of a true hero. Deku dives towards him with his hand straight out, almost like started with his imagination looking like a blade, and he dove it towards Stain's chest, just to see flame coming from behind him. He grabs Stain and jumps. It's Endeavour. And he screams, you flamey bastard, that attack was meant to hit me as well, weren't it? And he boots Stain to the side, and he rushes down at Endeavour and boots him in the nose. Deku's had enough of this stuck-up prick. And Endeavour in the public saying, look at him, he's attacking me. Until one of the citizens go, you shot fire into that alleyway and I saw him jump out of the way, you attacked him first. Hearing this, Endeavour goes to attack him. Deku says, no you fucking don't, and he punches him in the chin. And he starts beating the hell out of Endeavour. Endeavour goes to chuck flame that were going to hit citizens, but all of a sudden, ice encases Endeavour's arm. Todoroki's there. He got Ida's notification as well. And Deku, Deku said he's had enough. He punches Endeavour's arm. You can literally hear a snap. And the same way he was going to attack Stain, he goes towards Endeavour's stomach. And his hand partly impels him until he hears an explosion. If you look at your finger, you see that first line on your middle finger. That's how deep Deku got. And he says, you're lucky. And he rips out his finger and he looks around to see that and some similar Nomi creature flying. He jumps up, not risking anyone's safety, and destroys the brain straight away. He yells at them, the brain's the weakness, go for that, don't waste time. And he starts bouncing about. Shigaraki in the background watching this happen is enraged. It took so much effort before to destroy one Nomi, he just destroyed that one effortlessly. Well, it was just a flyer, it weren't meant to be strong. Now Nomi, who was, I'd say, roughly about 10 times stronger than the one at the training facility, I forgot what it's called, appeared and threw a punch at Deku. Deku blocked the punch with ease and ducked down and kicked. This absolutely decapitated the Nomu. And he shot it into a streetlight, making an electricity throughout the brain. And he says, I've had enough of this. He looks at Stain, who's nearly dead, and and he gives his blood his permission. Stain regains all his muscle mass, even stronger than before, and shoots up. But he's still under Deku's control, due to his own quirk acting against him. He says, Stain, I'll give you a chance, you can go free. But you have to help us take down the villains. Hearing this, Stain says, you're going to let me go? And he says, yeah. But next time we meet, it'll be a fight to the death. Hearing this, Stain smiles and says, fairs, but there's a condition on me, and he also said there's a condition on you being free. You have to be a hero, you have to be a villain killer for a little while, not a hero killer. Hearing this, Stain thinks about it and agrees, as no matter how much he hates the heroes, villains launching large-scale attacks like this, he cannot agree with them. And he begins taking down Nomu as well. Deku's absolutely blitzing through the Nomu, so is Endeavour. But he's still trying to throw small attacks at Deku, and Deku loses it. He dives down and punches the back of, and punches Endeavour so hard that his neck actually fractures, and he gets paralysed. He falls downwards. And Deku, who's now lost it, is on top of him, stamping, throwing punches. He even pops one of Endeavour's shoulders out of its socket and then pulls it to the point it's nearly ripped off. And then stamps on one of his legs, breaking it. And then he says, I'm going to finish the job, you bastard. He lifts his hand up until he hears more people scream. He's like, you always get saved by the citizens. Endeavour laid there thinking, why am I attacking a student? How far have I fallen? I'm meant to be the number 2 hero. Yes, it's not number 1, but what am I doing? I'm going to apologise to him after this. Deku finishes up the last of the Nomu, and he sees Shigaraki running away. Shigaraki was only there because he thought, this will cause enough destruction for me to kill that brat and show Master that I'm the truly worthy one. Deku runs at him and punches his chest, landing in front of him. He breaks about 4 Shigaraki's ribs, and he uppercuts him, breaking his jaw. He attempts to go for the final blow, piercing his chest, but Shigaraki goes to the side, and an entire chunk of his stomach gets ripped out by Deku, and he falls backwards into Kurogiri's portal. And Deku says, damn it, that bastard got away again. ASMR early on. And then, we'll caught up now. It's now been roughly a week, and Deku gets a letter from Endeavour asking him to meet. Of course, he goes there ready for a fight, and when he gets there, it's the entire Todoroki family bowing their heads, except for Shoto, of course. Bowing their heads and apologising for the father's action, and Endeavour also bows and apologises for his action. He says everything. He's like, you're a student and I took it out on you because I'm jealous of All Might, I can say it there. But I think you hit a few switches right in my brain. I'm going to focus on just being the best hero I can be. I don't care about rankings. So I understand that you most likely will not forgive me, but yet again I apologise, and also thank you for helping my son Shoto. I did him wrong, but thanks to you, he seems to be at least happier. Saying that Endeavour isn't lying, he puts his hands out to shake his hand, and he's like, well, not always forgiven. For what you've done for me is forgiven, but not to Shoto. But I can accept your apology. Now, I hope you stick to your word and become the best hero you can be. After this, the next day, it's announced that they're going to have to take their final exam. And blah blah blah, it goes as normal, where it's the teams to fight. And in this, it's actually 3v2. And the teams actually are Aizawa. No, it's going to be, these teams are, instead of the test where it was 1v2, it's 2v4. As some of the teachers are injured from that Nomu attack. And as such, it's Aizawa and All Might versus Deku, Bakugo, Momo, and Todoroki. And I'm not going to worry about the other guys because I want to get through the series quick time. And as such, it begins. Deku rushes at All Might, blowing him backwards with a kick. Everyone watching this is amazed. They've all heard the rumours that Deku's this strong, but they didn't expect him to blow back All Might with ease. And Aizawa, who's activated his quirk on Deku, meaning that he shouldn't have super strength, Deku throws a punch, and he nails Aizawa, sending him flying backwards with the same force. Aizawa confirms it. Just what is your quirk, Deku? And he says, my quirk isn't giving me super strength. I've just grown quick. All this power that I have now, even if you remove my quirk fully, I'd still have it. Meaning that even for that one for all guy, or all for one guy, if he stole my quirk, I'd still be able to beat the shit out of him. Seeing this, Aizawa realizes he's a bad matchup, and he targets Todoroki, Momo, and Bakugo. He cancels out Bakugo's quirk just for Bakugo, who yet again practiced martial arts, to kick him in the face. And Todoroki seeing this says, so that's the strength of martial arts. I didn't get it. They both had insanely powerful quirks. That's why they practiced it. Even without their quirk, even without any of their gifts they were given at birth, they're still strong through hard work. Todoroki then decides, you know what, I'm going to be a martial artist as well. And while Aizawa was focused on him, Todoroki launches his orange ice, which burns and freezes at the same time. Aizawa dodges it, just getting a small burn on his feet, but All Might took the brunt of it. But that's no problem for All Might. He blew it away with a punch, sending Momo and Todoroki flying backwards. Todoroki catching him and Momo on his ice, while Bakugo flied up with his explosions, and Deku just stood there and took the force of it and carried on walking through it. He thought, this is great training, and he sprints through it. Deku with the force of, I'd say, at least 5 Gs going against him. Running. This is an insane increase in his speed as he's running on the spot. All Might says, you might be strong, young Hanma, but you won't be able to run through this force. That's what happens. It goes from him running on the spot to him slowly pushing through it until he's running at full speed at All Might, and he kicks him in the stomach. Almost forgetting about All Might's injury, he swerves at the last minute, hitting the other side. All Might flies back, but just before he fully gets launched, he spins round. This is a martial arts that All Might has been taking. Everyone's been inspired by Deku that knows him to learn martial arts. All Might using a spinning punch hits Deku's jaw directly, sending him flying backwards, knocking him out for like 0.5 seconds. As Deku lays there in the crater, he feels a weird water-like energy rushing through his body. He's like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. Deku bounces off the ground, leaving a demon face imprinted on the ground, his hair floating up. Deku's demon back has now been fully activated. The ground beneath him is cracking. He uses electricity and it runs through his veins like he learnt to before. And he smiles. Next thing you know, his knuckles, only his knuckles, blue flames appear on them. This is Deku's new battle mode before he dislocates his joints. So everyone seeing this is just in awe. He looks like a god. Purple energy running through his veins, blue fire on his fist, his hair flowing backwards and that demon face on his back. Deku without a sound appears in front of Aizawa, who cancels out his quirk. Deku's flame fist disappears, but Aizawa can only cancel out one quirk for now. That will change. And he gets punched by Deku's lightning enhanced strength. But Aizawa blocks it, and Deku held back this time as Aizawa doesn't have anything special other than cancelling out his quirk, so he doesn't want to shatter his arms. Aizawa gets blown back by this and actually winded. And as he loses sight of Deku, his blue flames appear in his fist again. He rushes at All Might, who gets ready to fight. But then he realises he's forgot about the rest. All of a sudden, a spear flies from out of nowhere, and he thinks, a spear where? Of course, Yaozawa Momo. And he dodges the spear, getting a small slice on his side. Then he realises he needs to jump away until he looks down, his feet are frozen by a stronger ice than he's ever seen before. And he thinks, I'll just have to punch the ground. Before he can do that, Bakugo goes right in front of him, and he blasts him with full force of explosion. This actually burns All Might a bit. But he throws a punch, hitting Bakugo on his chest and then flying backwards. All Might's first thought was, damn it, I didn't hold back enough. Just to see Bakugo up without a problem, flying back at him. With this, All Might smiles. The future of this generation is secured. These 4 people could easily become in the top 10 of heroes. Well, not 4, maybe not Momo, but Todoroki, Bakugo and Deku especially could easily become in the top 10, maybe even top 5. And that's when he realises, how could I forget about Deku? That beastly, draconic, demonic presence that was there before disappeared. Deku completely suppressing his presence appeared behind All Might. And if you've watched anime, Deku's body seems to disappear. He yells, whip hand. He strikes the back of All Might, ripping off the layer of his skin. All Might screams in pain, in agony, holding his back. His veins are bulging. All Might's pissed. Not pissed to the kill, but he's pissed to hurt someone. And he swings around with 110%. As his quirk is running out now, he might as well use it to push Deku to his strength. Fullest. And he throws a punch, and Deku blocks it. He feels that one of his bones chip, but it heals. Something you're going to realise about Deku, he can get injured with no problem as he will heal quick enough. And then All Might throws another one. Deku weaves through it and grabs onto All Might's arm. Using a different technique, he waves one arm to the right in clockwise and the other one to the left in anti-clockwise. The force that hit Deku gets repelled backwards. Deku perfectly using his electric field, his electric track, created an electric field that repelled All Might's force. And Deku finally, to his fist to his side, took a deep breath. Shotgun put, or I'm not gonna make that joke actually. And with his fist covered in electricity and blue flames, he launched it towards All Might, hitting him directly in his face. All Might falls unconscious as soon as this punch hits his face, and he flies backwards. Momo and Todoroki did the original thing they did to Aizawa, and then they all walk out without any problems. Everyone who was watching this started clapping their hands, applauding them. Them three, I'm sorry, are the next generation of miracles. Wrong anime. On the next big three. I did that on purpose, I'm joking. Wait, no, I'm joking, guys, I did that on purpose. After seeing that their strength has increased this much, Aizawa knows that they need to do a different training camp. As All Might said to Deku already, not only now is there no point of teaching them their physical activities, they need to work on training their martial arts especially, and their quirk strength. As such, we go to the forest training arc. As they get there, Aizawa says the same thing. You have 6 hours to get here, if you don't make it, I do not care. But you just won't get dinner, and he disappears. Everyone hearing this rushes into the forest until they see the giant skeleton things. Everyone screams until Deku takes the lead, jumping upwards and punching one of the skulls, completely shattering it. After seeing this, everyone realises, wait a minute, don't be scared, why not be heroes? Fight out our fullest. As soon as everyone starts fighting against them without any fear, they realise they were a lot weaker than they thought they would be. And Deku, Bakugo and Todoroki are taking this as a race. Of course Deku's in the lead, and he decides for once he isn't going to hold back. He has an entire army in front of him, chosen by Aizawa especially to stop him from completing it too quickly. Deku activates a demon back on one side of his body, and he throws a punch. The shockwave that ensues is 100 times stronger than All Might's punch, and it blows away all the monsters in front of him. And he turns around with the peace sign on his hand saying, "Deuces!" And he flash steps, another martial art technique. He flash steps to the end. Seeing this, Aizawa face plants and says, "Oh, what is the point of teaching this brat? Anything I do, he can counter-attack." Deku introduces himself, and the 2 women there, I forgot their name, the Pussycat Girls, I think their name is, both go, "Meow, look at him." Deku is the pinnacle of manliness at this rate. He's 6'2", muscular, scars on his body, and strong. Then the Meow Meow Man, whatever his name is, Pussycat Man, I'm taking a guess, appears out of nowhere and tests Deku. He swings a punch and Deku just eats it with his head. With his face, I mean. The Pussycat Man pulls his hand away where he's smoking and he shakes it saying, "You're as hard as steel, what are you?" Deku taking this as a fight, he jumps in the air and kicks this man in the face. Aizawa attempts to stop it, but he knows what's about to happen. He started a fight, Deku's gonna finish it. Deku lunges at this man, rugby tackling him and picking him up and slamming him, grabbing him by his head and slamming his head into the ground. Everyone pulls him off him and saying, "It was just a test, it's training." Seeing this, Deku immediately apologises, and Pussycat Man says, "It's fine, I like your spirit." Eventually, all the other people arrive, and they start getting food. Of course, Bakugo, and if you know this, Baki can cook. Bakugo and Deku cook the food, and they get a meal 10 times better than what got in canon. And then after eating, Deku sees Kota, and he walks up to him. Kota punches Deku in the balls, but Deku is not phased. And he says, "You brat." He backhands Kota, sending him flying into a wall. Everyone watching this is just stunned. Kota gets up with tears in his eyes, about to cry, and Deku scares at him and says, "Don't you dare. You want to be a man and start a fight. You cannot cry if you get someone fighting back. I respect your courage, your enthusiasm, kid, but if you want to start a fight with someone, you're going to have to finish it." Deku gets in a stance. His imagination radiates just pure a monster, killing intent. Aizawa gets ready to get involved, but Bakugo grabs him saying, "I've known Deku for the longest time, no one else might be able to notice it, but he ain't really going to kill that kid." Kota stumbles backwards, he's nearly about to piss himself. But he remembers what his parents said about being brave, and he also remembers what Deku just said to him. And he not growls, he snarls at Deku, glaring at him. He stands his ground, ready to take the punch. Deku throws full speed at him and disappears right in front of Kota's eyes and appears behind him, tapping Kota on the back, saying, "Well done, you stood your ground. You're a man now." Kota suddenly got an admiration for Deku. He's the only hero out of anyone that he's actually truly liked, as he knows that Deku truly is a hero. He actually is a hero, don't forget that. And of course, they get congratulated. The next day, they start practicing and training their quirks. Deku doesn't need to evolve his shoot style. That shoot style doesn't happen yet. Oh, my bad. Deku doesn't need to train a shoot style or anything like that. Instead, it's Bakugo and Todoroki who are pushing their quirks to the limit. Bakugo practiced on creating a massive nuke from his entire body, creating one massive explosion. And Todoroki practiced on mixing his flames with his ice spell. The night comes and they're all about to go to sleep until Deku's instincts kick in and he jumps upwards. He runs into Uraka's room and he sees a lizard man there. Deku loses it and he punches this person through the wall. Uraka wakes up just to see the lizard man flying and Deku there. She blushes thinking Deku just saved her, which he technically did. And he sounds the alarm. All the UA students, despite as I was saying no, rush into the forest. Everything seems to be going as canon, except Deku realises that Kota isn't here, and he rushes off to the mountains. He could sense Kota there. As he gets there, he sees Muscular about to slam his fist down, and Deku, just like in canon, sprints and dives and tackles Kota out the way, but at the same time bounces off the ground and kicks Muscular in the face. He gets Kota right behind him in safety. Muscular rubs his jaw thinking, "You got quite a kick, kid." And he looks at him and says, "So you're the bro I heard about. Hero named Bakihanma. True name is Izuku Hanma. One of the newly ranked heroes. Our boss told us to test you out. He even gave us permission to kill you this time." So, Muscular's body starts... His muscle ability goes around his entire body, just as it did in canon. And he looks at Deku and says, "Get ready for this." He disappears in front of Deku's eyes, but Deku ain't stupid. He looks above him and sees Muscular punch coming. Deku blocks it. He can feel his entire arms shatter, but yet he ain't showing any pain in his face. Deku pulls his arm to the side and decides to return that punch. He throws a punch directly at Muscular's face, sending him flying upwards. Deku's arms quickly heals and he looks at Kota saying, "Kota, don't worry, I got you." Muscular lands saying, "Damn it, kid, you should be my protege. You got quite a punch here. But unfortunately, that will never be enough to stop me." Deku and Muscular rush at each other. Muscular throws one punch. Deku firms it. Deku throws his. His punch clearly did more damage than Muscular's. Muscular realises he can't hold back. His muscle mass doubles, and he throws a punch. Deku can see the mountain what's it called? He can feel the ground shaking, but nothing matters. That's when it happens. Muscular throws another punch. Deku, of course, jumps out the way and knees Muscular in the face, but he sees Kota flying off. Deku jumps off the cliff after Kota and grabs him and chucks him back on. Muscular Senior says, "You gave your life for a puny kid," until Deku suddenly flies back up. Remember, he contracted his muscles to get a shockwave. And he lands. Deku realises now that he cannot risk it anymore. And yet again, his fist turns into blue flame. Purple electricity runs through his veins. And his back becomes a demon back. Deku's now finally got the full grasp on it. And he says, "One punch, Muscular. In one punch, you're gonna die." Muscular says, "I accept your challenge." And just like canon, they rush at each other. Deku throws his full power punch and Muscular starts fighting back against it. He says, "Is this really all you got?" And Deku says, "No." He said in his mind, "Hanma technique. Second blow." Deku twists his body inwards and forces it forwards. Now it's technically a second force that hits. It blows Muscular back into the mountain. Unlike canon where it would just swing, the entire mountain gets destroyed, as well as the back of it, and it goes on for longer. And he finally finds Muscular lying there. He picks him up and goes back to Kota. And Muscle is barely conscious, says, "You hear it, brat, what are you gonna do, kill me?" And he says, I'm not. He looks at Kota and says, "He will." He drags Muscle in front of Kota and says, "Kota, it's time for you to become a real man. This man killed your parents. Your choice is, are you taking revenge? Are you gonna kill him, or do you want me to?" Kota, hearing this, panics. What? How can he ask me if I want to kill him? And he looks at Deku's look. He's dead serious. Kota at first begins to pussy out, then he remembers, be a man. Not toxic masculinity. He remembers what his parents said to him, he remembers what Deku said to him, he remembers the feeling. Kota's look becomes serious, and Deku smiles. Kota gets his hand up ready, using his full power blast. If he hits him directly in his brain, Muscular will die. Kota launches it. Deku, of course, slaps it away. And he says, "I'm not going to make a kid kill someone. But remember that feeling when you need to protect yourself, as it's going to come in real quick." Muscular says, "I knew you wouldn't kill me." Deku puts him in a headlock. And he says, "Kota, you can look away, but I'm not going to stop." He snaps Muscular's neck. And he picks up Kota and Muscular's dead body, and he jumps, flying towards the camp. Deku chucks Muscular's dead body down, as well with Kota. And he says, "I'm gonna go help." Kota seeing Deku, and she automatically gets a crush on him, not because of blah blah. He looks blooded up. You can just sense something about his blood. His blood is special. Deku, without even trying, appears behind Toga, slapping her on the head, sending her flying into the forest. And he's rushing through. He runs into Tokiyami, and who's gone out of control. Bakugo, without needing Deku's help, of course gets him under control just like Cannon, until Bakugo is turned into an orb, a marble. There's only 2 people they can save, as Tokiyami gets caught as well. The man who's playing with the marbles is saying, "What now, what now, what now?" The same thing happens in Cannon, where they finally get the 2 orbs floating, except for this time Deku boots the one with the marbles away, and the man who's a lizard comes flying towards him. They all think that Deku isn't going to make it, and Deku smirks, still in his fight mode. He dodges out the way and spins with his knuckle out. He actually cuts the lizard guy's neck open, and at the same time with that rotation, because they didn't expect Deku to start spinning, he destroys both the marbles, releasing Bakugo. And finally, with a full powered punch, he punched the last villain he could see, sending him flying backwards. Of course, Zawa dealt with Darby, and Deku rushes back to the base camp with everyone else. They see Shigaraki there, who's fuming. Damn it, damn it, damn it. It isn't fair, it isn't fair, it isn't fair. Who's meant to get that Bakugo, bruh? And then, before he can finish that sentence, Deku appears in front of him and slaps him around the face. And then when Kurogiri appears, Deku says, "I don't think so this time." He boots his leg through Kurogiri, finding his main body, and sends him flying backwards. But as he did this, his guard was down for a second, and Shigaraki lunges towards him, getting ready to decay Deku, until Shigaraki throws up an insane amount of blood. He looks down, there's a massive hole in his stomach, and looks behind him. "You brat!" Kota, using his full power, had blown a hole through Shigaraki's stomach, saying, "I'm gonna be the next greatest hero. No one's gonna hurt my older brother Zuko." Seeing this, Deku smiles, and he spins around, getting ready to kick Shigaraki in his face, breaking his jaw, snapping his neck, everything, ending it there, until Kurogiri gets there at the final second. Deku prepares to stop it until he feels it, that presence. His foot gets grabbed by no one other than his father, Yujiro Hanma, also known as All for One. But he thought that this was about to become a massive fight, until his father lets him go, booting him hard in his chest. Deku feels every single one of his ribs break, and he flies backwards, and his father leaves without saying a word, but has a massive smile on his face. Of course, Deku's ribs heal, and he just realised that the difference between him and his father's power. Doesn't matter if he can heal, he'll get put out of commission for slightly too long, and his father will take his life. Now it's real training time. Now we're back in reality. Deku, as he's returned home, he has a really gut feeling that he needs to get stronger. So without saying anything to anyone, he leaves a note saying, "I'm gonna go train, I'll be back in a week or 2. Unknown to Deku, that 2 weeks would be more like a month. He went to that spot from before, with the magical creatures and intense gravity, and he went deeper than he ever went, even past the whole other underground world he found. And with this, he got stronger, and I mean a lot stronger. He was fighting behemoths or beasts, massive dragons, massive apes, anything you can think of, Deku was fighting against it. His strength didn't multiply by 10, not by 100, thousands maybe. And as he finally reached to about, I'd say, the 20th floor, it all became clear to Deku the real way to get stronger. After fighting with a magical beast, a massive lion that could fly, it could also shoot out a weird type of energy. It was wind, but more empowered. And after Deku was hit with this, he felt his veins, his cells be rejuvenized. He had a wing quirk. These beasts have finally reached the strength where it'd be more considered a quirk. Deku can finally get an abundance of quirks from fighting these. And as such, he flies through the dungeon. Or not dungeon really. Fighting beast after beast, gaining more and more ability, stronger fire, water manipulation, gravity control after being underneath that gravity for so long. Anything I will release more on later. But after a month go past after Deku lost time, he thought he'd only be in there for a week. He breaks out the surface, and he appears back at UA. He's now even taller, 6'5", and everyone who sees him is just in awe. They can sense his aura, it's way stronger than before. And as they're all walking through the city, an alarm goes off.
Notice, alarm, alarm! A group of villains known as the League of Villains is attacking the city. And the #1 villain, All For One, is there. We recommend you all seek shelter immediately.
Hearing this, Deku's blood runs cold. All For One, my father. Deku rushes through the city. To where he sees All Might preparing to go fight this fight. Deku can see that All Might really knows this will be his final fight before he loses his quirk. And as he sees Midoriya there, Izuku there, he goes, "Ah, young Hanma, I knew you'd be here. I only have one request for you. Please stay out of this fight, no matter how much it bears you, even after watching me die. Please stay out of it. This is my only wish, my only request from you." Hearing this, Deku's heart stops seemingly. His entire plan to fight his father had just been stopped by All Might. He'd have to accept his wish, but this by no means means. But Deku does not agree to watching All Might die. As he's watching the fight, it seems to be going normally. Everything that happens in canon happens, except for the part where Kurogiri's portal opens and a bunch of villains rush out and start attacking All Might. They even cut at his weak spot. All Might manages to blast all of them away, but not before All For One could penetrate All Might's skin using that black tentacle, whatever it was, quirk, and brought All Might down to his knees. All Might barely had any single ember left of his quirk. He would feel his body shrinking. No, I have to keep it up. I have to remain the symbol of peace. If they see me defeated here. He looks up. For the first time he feels fear. A presence he's never felt is radiating from All For One. And he says, one sec guys. Oh. And he says to All Might and says, "The symbol of peace on his knees before the symbol of being a villain. What a sight to behold. You were never truly my #1 rival to begin with. Now goodbye, All Might." Before he could launch his attack, we cut to Deku, who's watching this trembling. Everyone who was watching with him goes thinking he's about to have a panic attack, until they see his glare. Deku's biting his lip. He's holding himself back from running into it. Blood is literally coming from his lip. They can see the pure look of killing intent radiating from Deku's eyes, his body language. His muscle mass is growing. Purple lightning starting to appear over him. They'll go, "No, Deku, you can't win against that. Don't go." Deku snaps. "So you think I'm just going to watch All Might die? He's been there for us since we started UA. No, since we were kids fighting against all these villains, keeping us safe. And now you just want to watch us, now you just want me to let him die. You can do that if you wish, but I'm not." Deku rushes, he jumps at full speed, flying towards the battle. The news reporters catch and say, "It seems a young man is flying towards the fight. A pointless effort, but he is what a true hero should be. His sacrifice, his death shall not be forgotten." All for one looks alright, but not in time. Deku's punch connects. He can feel All for One's jaw crack, and he sends him flying across the battlefield. And everyone who's seen this is just in shock. All Might, who couldn't even land a decent punch, had just been saved by a boy he sent, the most powerful villain in the world, flying with one punch. All Might, who's still coughing up blood. "Young Hanma, I told you to stay out of it." Deku looks at him with a death stare and says, "You asked me to watch you die. My idol, you asked me to watch you die. Do you really think I was going to do that, you selfish bastard?" Deku takes a deep breath. He bats his finger and drops the blood in All Might's mouth. All of a sudden, All Might's injury, he seems to start healing. Even the most advanced nurses couldn't heal him. It isn't completely healed, but it's enough for All Might to keep his form for at least 2 days straight. His buff form. And he feels the embers of One for All reignite, even if it's only temporary. After making sure All Might was okay, Deku felt his father's presence racing towards him. He looked to the side and blocked. All for One appeared out of nowhere and slammed his fist into Deku. Deku got pushed back slightly but didn't blow away at all. This catches All for One off guard, and he says, "You've grown a lot quicker than I expected you to. That punch was meant to knock you out so I could finish the job." Deku glares at his father with killing intent, and he says, "I'm a lot stronger than I was before. I might be able to become strong enough to kill you." The killing intent and the raw power that his son is given off, Yujiro Hanma, or All for One, is actually not scared, but curious. His son should nowhere near be this strong. By the way, his father doesn't know about the training spot, that's why. This is training that should have took maybe 10, 20 years. And he's done it in a matter of weeks. His father laughs and says, "You really are a wonder, Izuku." He throws another punch, but Deku manages to easily dodge out of the way and punch his father right in the chest. His father coughs up blood and flies backwards. The dent in his chest heals quickly, and Deku laughs, saying, "So I got my healing factor from you, huh?" As he says this, his father laughs and says, "You really are my son." He rushes at Deku faster than Deku predicted, and he decks him hard in the stomach. Deku gets sent flying backwards, but it's not like before. This isn't unbearable pain. His organs aren't at all damaged, and he flips. He sees out his father is going to kill All Might yet again. Electricity spreads throughout Deku's entire body, and he rushes towards his father yet again. Instead of this time going for a dead punch, he decides to test out his new technique. And he pulls out 2 fingers, and he sends electricity to the very ends of them. He jabs his father so softly that his father didn't even feel it, and it was at speeds his father couldn't keep up with. He jabs 64 points in his body. All of a sudden, lightning bolts shoot throughout All for One's entire body, and he screams, coughing up blood yet again. He sees his son is now in front of him, in a fighting stance, and he says, "This isn't going to be easy, lad. It's either you run or you die." Seeing this, his dad laughs and rips off his mask, rips off his clothes, and he puts his arm in the air. Deku can realise this sudden change in his aura. His father just activated his demon back. Deku laughs and rips off his clothes as well, lifting his hands and activating his demon back. This is what seriously caught his father off guard. His father had to train for years and years and years to activate his demon back. Somehow this 15-year-old boy had done the same thing with somewhat ease. His dad laughs and says the next generation really will beat the old. And they both lunge at each other with a punch. They both get sent flying backwards, and as they look at the difference, Deku's dad gets pissed. Deku hit him harder than he hit him. Deku's dad got sent flying back farther than Deku did. And Deku laughs and said, "I told you, you old bastard." Next thing you know, Deku's fists are not only covered in lightning, the lightning goes through his veins. His veins turn purple, and his fists get covered in a blue flame. As well as, it gets rotated by wind. And his fists seem to get harder as if they turn into steel. And to top it off, he puts gravity over his fists, and you'll see the effect soon. His dad's curious about this technique. He didn't give his son these quirks. He looks like he's been training a lot harder than his dad thought. Good, that's how it should be. They rushed right towards each other. And this time, Deku's not going to be a fucking dumbass and take a blow. He ducks down beneath it, and his father swings with his full force. Deku uses his God Reversal, slaps a hand out of the way, and palms his father's stomach. The gravity manipulation takes effect, and his father's organs get shot down to the very bottom of his body. His lungs get torn out of its socket and all that. He thought this did a lot more damage than he thought, and he deactivates it. He don't want his fight ending too soon, although it might be too late. Deku's dad looks down as his legs are shaking. Or should I say all four, and looks down and his legs are shaking. And there's a solid handprint on his stomach that isn't healing. He throws up a bunch of blood. His organs all move to the right place, but the damage that he just took to them is not healing at all. He drops to the ground screaming in agony. What is this, you bastard of a son? It takes about 20 seconds for his healing factor to kick in. Deku, seeing this, realises if you can do enough damage, it doesn't matter about the healing factor, it won't work. Deku smirks. He just figured out how he's going to kill his dad. But if he's going to do it, he's going to go full power. He puts his arms to the side of him. His joints start moving about his body. His eyes lock on. He's in his final battle mode, with all his quirks activated, including explosion, by the way. His joints are in his battle form. There's lightning go through his veins. Black lightning, may I add. His dad, who saw this, was very confused. This was something even he couldn't do, but he recognised it straight away. Deku changing his joints has unlocked all his abilities that were somewhat limited, such as now his body would be able to put out output much stronger. He'd be faster, he'd be more resilient. And they rush at each other. Deku actually starts battering his dad, to the point where his dad, who did something he didn't think he'd ever have to do, he started using other quirks. Of course he doesn't normally, but not against his own son. He thought he'd be strong enough to easily dominate him with pure strength. He sends fire, tornadoes, them black and red tentacle things, as many things as he could muster, and Deku just firms it. He does it because this is his way to get stronger. He absorbs all these quirks, gaining access to them, and copies them. And finally, he used something that he didn't think he didn't actually need to. He puts his arm out, and Black Whip shoots out of his arm, wrapping his father up, and it begins tightening, crushing his bones. He pulls him towards him, and Deku, powering up a powerful punch, hits his father straight in the chest. His father's heart stopped for at least a minute, and when he woke up, he was barely out of breath. His power was drained. He was out of breath. His power was drained. He barely was alive. He technically was dead for a minute. Even his muscles just started decaying at that point. Deku stood in front of his father, disappointed. So I trained this long, this hard, for you to be this weak. Hearing this, his father snapped. His veins himself turned purple. He exploded with power, activating all his quirks at once, and he rushed towards Deku. Deku didn't expect this insane power boost, and the punch he felt was unlike pain he's ever felt. He gets sent flying backwards with his chest caved in. But unlike his father, this took no time to heal at all. Deku could even feel half his heart was gone, but it healed instantaneously. And he shot back up, and he laughed. Is this really all you got? Deku's legs suddenly changed, not changed really, but wind started pouring out of them, and he zoomed towards his father at speeds that he didn't even expect himself to reach. But it was pointless. His punches were not affecting his father. His father was just hitting him with quirk after quirk after quirk, punch after punch after punch, kick after kick after kick. Even Deku's healing factor began slowing down, and this pain was becoming unbearable. But slowly he got used to the pain. It's almost like it stopped existing. And he just laughed and said, "Time to get yourself beat, bastard." Deku leaned all the way back and headbutted his father. They both stumbled backwards, and he yelled, "Enough, we're gonna end this the Hanma way. No dodging, just throwing punches after punch after punch after punch." His father agreed and said, "That's my boy." They both put their arms up to the side and rushed towards each other. Deku eats the first punch, but he eats it. It did not affect him, and he throws his own. blood is both drawn from both their punches and their throwing. Like All Might and Nomu, remember when they had that combo? It was like that, but between All for One and Deku. These punches, and then Deku he doesn't dodge, he starts kicking as well. This was his father did not expect. His body's so big, he's so nimble, light on his feet, being able to get kicks off as quick as punches. It's insane. Deku's dad realised he was losing this battle of pure strength. And that's when it happened. A weird type of mystical flame exploded from Deku, and he screamed. Over this past few months, I hunted sorry guys. I have a chest infection in it and it keeps on fucking me up. He screams, over the last few months, a lot has happened. I've hunted a lot of monsters, but the most powerful and most, I say, beneficial one is the legendary mystical beast, the Phoenix. As this fire pours through Deku's body, his strength is multiplied by 10, and the punch that he throws next absolutely obliterates his father. He felt insane pain, burns that weren't healing, and all Deku's injuries from before healed instantly. That's the power of the Phoenix Flame. He's throwing combo after combo. He's moving at such speeds that his father, All for One, cannot even get any punches off. And he screams, enough, time to end it. He charges up all the power that he has in his body into his right fist and chucks it forwards. He pierced his father's chest and absolutely obliterated his body, mostly. His father laid there lifeless, saying, you passed my first test. Don't think that this is over. Kurogiri appeared up underneath him and sucked him up. Deku tried launching through the portal but got blown away. All for One had run away. Deku screams, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, and he punches the ground. All Might stands next to Deku, placing his hand on his shoulder, saying, young Hanma, it is okay. You did more than anyone expected you to do. You did more than I could. You proved yourself to be the next candidate for #1 hero. He screams at All Might, shut the fuck up! That was my chance to prove to everyone that I was strong enough. That was my chance to get revenge. That was my chance to beat my dad. Hearing this, All Might's caught off guard. Dad? All Might never really caught on that was his dad. Lucky enough, all the news reports at that time had turned off or been blown away. And he looks at All Might with tears in his eyes. Yes, I said dad. What? You old bastard. You don't know what it means? All Might seeing this sees the sadness in Deku's eyes and says, it's alright, young Midoriya. You proved your strength. And next time, there will be no chance of escape. Anyway guys, I hope you did enjoy season 1 of What If Deku Had blah blah blah. We're gonna be back, give me a week or two. But yeah, I do hope you do enjoy. Season 1 is over, but it's no big deal. It will be back soon. And what next arc is going to start the overhaul arc, and then season 2 will be the final season, don't worry. But other than that guys, I hope you do enjoy. Like and subscribe. The more likes we get, the quicker we'll get to the final part, the next season. And other than that, see you later.